I stuff my phone back in my pocket, then kick the tree at a nearby tree root with the tip of my boot. It doesn't make me feel any better. In fact, it makes me feel worse. My foot is killing me. Son of a... Tut tut, foul language won't get us anywhere. I know that, but this is totally screwed up. I can hear devilish whispers hovering in the air like cobwebs. Each word is sharp and pointed, and they make me shiver. Oh dear, the poor girlies are completely lost now. Where can they go, I wonder? What will they do? Not even we know. Not that it's any of our business. They should have given up while they still had the chance. The moon is still hidden behind the fog. It's not too late to run. Turn back, turn back. But watching them squirm is so much fun. No human has ventured this far in and lived to tell the tale. Oh, go screw yourselves. I might not be able to see the voices, but I sure as hell can tell them where to get off. They piss me off, that chorus of invisible voices, so callous and catty, so obnoxiously human despite their supposedly mythic status. They remind me of Leona Davies' crew back in John Whitgift's, whispering in the cafeteria, head bent, shooting sneery looks at those they've deemed members of the Loser Brigade. As a golden member of the Loser Brigade myself, I'm used to being stared at from afar, and let me tell you, it kinda sucks. The invisible voices shush themselves into non-existence at my angry cry, though I can hear a few residual giggles here and there. Leof frowns. Did you need to be so rude, Marnie? I didn't need to, no, but it made me feel better. I cannot condone that. It is very unladylike behavior. And you know all about being a lady, wouldn't you, Miss I Want to Be a Knight? Well, point taken. Leof smiles bashfully. Then I shan't say anything more about your conduct. I wouldn't want to be a hypocrite. My conduct is the least of your worries here. It shouldn't be this dark at this hour. I don't know the exact time, thanks for dying on me, phone, but I doubt it can be much more than 2 or 3 o'clock. It's the middle of summer, and the sun shouldn't be set for at least 6 hours. Why won't my phone just work? I don't get it. You know, Leof was asleep for all that time for 1,300 years. I'd be worried that we'd walk out of this forest and another 1,300 years would pass. Maybe that's why your phone died. It, ran out of battery. It's quite the curious conundrum, yes. Maybe there's too much magical energy in the air. I beg your pardon? Your phone, as you call it, is a relatively modern invention. I don't understand its inner workings, but it must be a very complicated talisman. This forest, however, rejects things like logic and reason. As there is so much magic here, it stands to reason items from an age of enlightenment would not work. We have entered the realm of fantasy now. Anything is possible. Anything, huh? I don't know if that fills me with much confidence. If we get trapped here for too long, Gran will definitely freak out. That's why we should hurry to accomplish our goal. I don't know what lurks in the woods, but I feel like we are fast approaching our destiny. If only that irritating witch would appear now to let us know we are on the right track. But of course, she would not do that. That'd be way too helpful. Well, quite. Now, shall we go, my lady? Leof stopped herself and cheeks tinged pink. Well, after we have been through, I suppose I can drop this form of address. It would be far more appropriate to use your first name, so let me see. Shall we get going, dear Marnie? Sure, let's go. I find Leof's hand with my own. My fingers are trembling, but Leof holds it tightly. I know she won't let go no matter what happens. I feel safe when I'm with her. We might be lost, like Hansel and Gretel from the fairy tale, but though they were small children, they were able to outwit the wicked witch through the power of teamwork. We don't have a trail of breadcrumbs, or in this case, a phone signal, but it doesn't matter. We only need each other. We walk through the trees in relative silence. Our hands clasp, though the air is cool, my palms soon start to get sweaty, still I don't put it away. I'm afraid if I relinquish my grip on Leof's hand, she'll disappear just like a phantom. As we walk, the stars grow more numerous above our heads. Twigs snap underfoot, strange birds twitter among the branches, and fog begins to roll along the ground. The fog gets denser and denser with every footstep. It worms its way beneath the hem of my skirt and back up in the back of my skirt, caressing my bare shoulder blade, so I shudder. Soon the fog is so thick I can scarcely see a foot in front of my face. Now what will we do? What will we do? Leof comes to a halt, her fingers still grasping mine as her eyes attempt to penetrate the misty veil around us. The trees emerge from the fog like Romero zombies, their branches waving in the breeze like rotten limbs. There's something incredibly eerie about the scene, and I can't help but share Leof's sentiments. What will we do now? Where can we go? I'm just about to suggest that we toss a coin. Maybe that'll help us decide which way to turn when I pause. I can hear something. It sounds just like footsteps. Oh, what was that? Who's there? I don't know. These footsteps are slow and shambling, almost like my grandma's, but there's no way she could be out here in the dark. Not this far out in the forest. What did those obnoxious fairies say before I chased them off? Was it something like, no human has ever ventured this far in the forest and lived to tell the tale? What does that mean? It's a ridiculous thing to think, but no shortage of ridiculous things have happened to me over the last few days, and now I'm ready to believe anything. If no human who has wandered this far in the woods has survived, then the people in the forest, they must be dead already. What? It couldn't be. This wouldn't be. That would be in poor taste, even for a witch. The dead should be allowed to rest in peace. But despite Leof's protests, the footsteps grow louder and even more numerous. A gust of wind blows through the trees, the fog parts like a stage curtain, and then... Oh no! They're finally made visible to us. A small contingent of shambling, stumbling knights are moving through the fog. Maybe they were human once, but they are not any longer. Some of these warriors are missing arms, others legs. A handful are even missing their heads, but these grievous injuries do little to deter them. They continue shambling along and on regardless. If a few of these warriors are sans helmets, I can see their faces in clear detail, though I wish I couldn't. These warriors don't have faces. They have no eyes, noses, or lips. There are only white skulls with teeth frozen in rictus grins. They have no eyelids. They can't blink. They have no flesh, so they can't feel. They have no eyes, so they can't see. But their gaping sockets seem to be staring at me regardless. They're staring right through me. These knights are nothing more than mindless monsters. They're devoid of humanity. They should be long dead, but they've rejected their graves. They're animated by black magic and a thirst for revenge. These skeletons are like Edmund, but they've been stripped of their names, their memories, and their sense of selfhood. These knights we read about in the book. They must be. Leof summons their sword from the air. They must have challenged a dragon in the forest, and they failed. They lost their lives, and their remains were scattered about the forest. They died a long, long time ago. I cannot say for how long they have been wandering these woods, but I have to put them to rest. As a knight, that is my duty. Leof points her blade at the encroaching foes. The sharp point glimmers in the moonlight, promising pain, but this isn't enough to deter them. I don't think they understand the danger Leof's blade possesses. Their heads are completely empty, scooped clean of any intelligent thought. All they can do is move, fight, and kill like machines. These knights have all fallen once before. They've lost everything. But Leof is still alive. She has beliefs and dreams and hopes for the future, and that is why she will win. I've seen enough zombie movies to know that the living will always triumph over the dead. I'm sorry, but there is nothing I can offer you. Killing me will not reverse the cruel fates you suffered. You can try to best me, but I will not let you succeed. I will return you to the dirt once more, so you can finally sleep. So saying, Leof dashes forward, sword in hand. The skeletal warriors lurch forward to parry her blows, but they're too sluggish. They can't see with their staring sockets, and Leof dispatches them easily. She deflects wild swings, her sword fending off 1, 2, 3 attackers all at once. To Leof, this is child's play. She doesn't even break a sweat. She disarms one skeletal warrior and plunges her sword through his skull. Her blade shears through his socket and pierces to the other side like puncturing a juice carton with a straw. The skeleton lurches back, disoriented, and collapses in a heap. Yet more monsters reach out for Leof, their fingers grasping, but it's fruitless. Leof sidesteps them all elegantly, running through yet another foe with her trusty blade. The moon presides over this macabre ballet, a cold, impartial kind of judge with ever-watchful eyes. The fog swirls around Leof, but it doesn't slow her down. She seems to wear the mist almost like a cape dancing through it, fairy-like, as she fells yet another foe and another. One skeleton, both arms lost in the skirmish, tries to tackle Leof from behind. She dodges and it clatters against the floor, ribs breaking, cracking, splintering from the impact. It doesn't pull itself back up again. These silent warriors, stripped of the ability to speak, continue to fight and fall. The fight is soundless, save for the clashing of Leof's blade. She doesn't speak, but I doubt she has much to say. Even if she did, these skeletons wouldn't be able to listen to her. She couldn't threaten them, forgive them, or even try to appeal them, but they wouldn't be able to understand her. They're not humans. Maybe they were once, but not anymore. Now they're just nothing more than puppets. Soon the last skeletal knight falls. Leof swipes its skull clean off its bony neck with one blow. Both the broken skull and the headless body fall to the floor, sightless eyes landing upon the dirt. Leof stands there, sword in hand, her eyes narrowed. She glances about, searching for yet more foes, but the forest remained quiet. It's too quiet, in fact. I wait with bated breath, hardly daring to breathe. The ground seems to shudder beneath my feet. There's one final fight left, which will mark an end to this incredible, fantastical night. The fallen warriors' flesh stripped from their bones, morals from their minds, didn't die in vain. There was an opponent they all wished to fail, either for the money or the fame or the fervent desire of fulfilling a good deed before they died. Many people lost their lives to this monster until one brave young knight was able to defeat it. The monsters died, or so the story said. But during tonight's full moon, it will be revived. It's here now in this forest, and it's been waiting for its revenge for hundreds of years. The beast that was immortalized in the stained glass window of Friend Chapel Church has finally shown itself. There's no way a creature like this could exist in the modern era, but... So here you are. How nice do you finally arrive. I killed you once, yet it seems the first taste you had of my blade was not enough to sate you. Very well then. I have defeated you once, I will do so again. My name is Leof, daughter of Algar, and I will not bend for you. I am not afraid of you, vile dragon. A low roar rumbles through the forest. The trees themselves seem to shiver all the way down to their roots. Then out of the fog there emerges the head, the neck, and then the muscular, scaly body of a large, evil-eyed dragon. The dragon looks before Leof and I for a few moments, motionless, its eyes narrow, its claws scraping against the earth. When it exhales, I can feel its cool breath across my face. It smells not of brimstone as I initially expected, but something even more fearsome, death and decay. How many people has this dragon snapped in between its razor-sharp jaws? I have no idea. But it's apparent as the seconds tick by that this monster has marked us as its prey. The dragon's nostrils dilate, its tail twitches, then with a roar loud enough to shake the trees to their very roots, it lumbers forth. Marnie, stand back! Leof pushes me off to one side, her face set with determination, and holds her sword aloft. The dragon swipes at Leof with its claws, but she dances around them. Her sword hits the underside of the colossal creature, but the blade does little damage. Instead, it glances off the dragon's scales. Leof jumps back before the dragon can slash her stomach open with its claws. You are stronger than my brother, I will grant you that, but I will not back down so easily. I am a knight. Regardless of my appearance, I will never be reduced to any mere plaything. I have more pride than that. The dragon swipes at Leof again, but she avoids its claws. The dragon howls, enraged, and aims at her once more, but its claws, instead of catching Leof, shear through the trunk of a nearby oak tree. Leof ducks, dodging the stray splinters ricocheting through the air. The tree might have been reduced to firewood, but some of these splinters are pretty large. They could pierce Leof through, impaling her heart and her lungs in one fell blow. But Leof blows these bits of wood back, the flat of her blade almost like she's playing rounders. I can see nightmare visions of Leof's body being pierced, ragdoll-like by loose bits of shrapnel, while blood bubbles forth from her lips. But I don't want to think about that. I have faith in her. I'm sure she'll triumph, no matter the odds, after all. Heads down, Marnie! She said she would protect me. Leof skirts over to my side, deflecting the rain of twigs and branches, and pushes me behind a trunk of a nearby tree. The dragon roars, eyes narrows, and slashes out with its sharp claws. It catches yet another tree, and the old trunk explodes like a firework. Splinters of the destroyed oak tree fly through the air. Some of these splinters pierce the ground where I was once standing. If Leof hadn't pushed me out of the way, I'd be skewered. Oh god. I shiver, my legs turning to jelly. It's all I can do to remain upright. Leof, you saved me. Of course I did. I am your knight, after all, and you're your girlfriend besides. I would save you over and over again, no matter how many times it takes. You say that, but this is a dragon. I don't know if you can beat it. It's so strong, and it's huge, too. Now. Leof smiles, a smut of dirt on her cheek, and taps the tip of my nose with her finger. I have some faith. Have some faith in me, please. But nothing. It's far too late to go back now. If we run, the dragon will chase us down. We shall be killed. But I will not let that happen. Slaying dragons is fairly standard for a knight in shiny armor. If I let this monster get the better of me, I would no longer have the right to be called a knight. Ergo, I have to defeat it. I'll slay this beast and prove I really am Leof. I've defeated this monster once before, and I won't hesitate to do it again. The dragon's tail swishes, yet another tree is caught by the sweep of its tail, and it falls to the ground with a loud thud. The earth trembles. I struggle to keep my balance. The world itself seems to be pivoting on an axis. This dragon is incredibly powerful, but that can be a weakness too. The dragon's colossal body is hemmed somewhat by all the trees, and it has difficult navigating through the fog. It might be large, it's easily big enough to swallow Leof in one gulp, but its sheer size is a disadvantage. Leof dances around the dragon nimbly, sidestepping all its blows and lunges force. She stabs and thrusts again and again, but its scales deflect each of her strikes. You tenacious, oversized lizard! Why won't you succumb to my blade? Leof carves at the dragon, lumbering legs over and over, but she isn't dealing any damage. She's just putting herself in danger. If only my Mopinos was with me, a noble steed would be a godsend at a time like this. Leof glances up at the sky. The full moon hovers over our heads as though suspended by a string. It's so round and perfectly full, it looks like a crystal ball, or even maybe an eye. It feels like it's watching over us, but it's a cold, callous observer. It doesn't care one whit about us. If Leof's to defeat the dragon, she can only rely on herself. Well, maybe asking for divine intervention is too much. My father always told me that the Lord helps those who help themselves. I need to do the best with whatever I have at hand. Think, Leof, think. Leof glances about the forest, her eyes narrows, and searches for a potential course of action. How can she defeat a monster that towers several feet higher than she does? It's a classic David and Goliath situation, but unlike David, she can't rely on God. This forest is sealed away from reality and religion and all common sense. It's a place where fairies lurk among the treetops, whispering riddles, and skeleton warriors can emerge from the fog to settle centuries-old debts. In a bizarre, upside-down world like this, all Leof can rely on is her own ingenuity. Then if tacks are no good, like this are no good, that might work. I just need to approach it from a different angle. I need more height. The dragon's thrashing tail fells another tree. The once mighty oak is severed at the base. It's as though by a guillotine. Leof watches as the tree falls slowly, inevitably to the ground, uneven ground. She jumps, pushing off against the dirt, and lands upon the falling tree. She scales the trunk, running as hard as she can, pushing her muscles to the limit. She grips her sword tightly in her hands, her eyes flashing. I think I know what she means to do. It's an incredibly reckless attack. One might call it suicidal, but it's, in these circumstances, what choice does she have? Alright, you oversized lizard, try and deflect this. Leof cries out, her voice echoing about in the forest. As she jumps, she entrusts her own body to the air, her hair streaming behind her as she falls. She must be a good 20 feet in the air. It's a long way to fall, but she has something to break it. The dragon. She lands nimbly upon its back, sword in hand, and rams a potential pointed blade of her weapon deep into its neck. At least that's what Leof plans, but the scales about the monster's neck are just as sturdy as the ones around its leg. Leof grits her teeth together, her face deathly pale as she tries to skewer the dragon like a kebab. But it's no use. The dragon's hide is too strong, her sword can't breach its defenses. The dragon roars and tips its head back. It rears back, shaking itself to and fro in a frenzied attempt to shake Leof off of it. Leof tries to cling on, her teeth gritted together, eyes narrowed. She digs her sword between the dragon's shoulder blades, taking advantage of the small breach in the dragon's scales, but this only serves to enrage the beast further. Leof! I call after Leof, but my voice can't possibly reach her. She's lost amongst the hectic thrill of the fight. Not that this truly counts. Leof isn't hurting the dragon, she's struggling simply to stay alive. Leof tries to maintain her balance, fingers wrapped tightly around her blade, but the dragon has other ideas. Such a large, seemingly single-minded beast can think of ideas beyond brutal murder. The dragon begins to flap its large leathery wings. Gusts of wind billow through the forest, leaves are torn from the trees, and loose sticks and clods of dirt are whipped up by my ankles. The sheer force of the air velocity pushes me backwards. I try to dig the heels of my shoes against the dirt, but it's no good. I put my palms out trying to steady myself, but then I gasp, pain as a gnarled root pierces my skin. I'm bleeding. But that hardly seems to matter now. The dragon is ascending into the cool night air, Leof still perched precariously upon its back. The dragon looms over the tops of the trees, so large it blocks out the light of the milky moon. This really does look unreal. It's like a scene from a fantasy movie, or maybe the front cover of a heavy metal album. And I thought the skeleton warriors were unnerving. The dragon hangs in the air, high above my head. Its wicked bat-like wings flutter back and forth, suspended within the night. Then it lets out a fearsome roar. It's starting to move. The dragon arcs through the air, dipping and twisting and spinning as Leof struggles to remain upon its back. She can't hold out much longer. Leof grips the sword, and the sword slackens. I can't see her face, I can barely hear her voice, but I'm sure she's screaming, shouting, slipping. She's... Leof! Falling. Leof plummets from the dragon's mighty body, her hands reached out desperately, trying to grab her sword once more, but it's too late. She's shooting through the night air like a meteor. My heart clenches inside my chest. I need to save her, and fast, before she lands and breaks her neck. Leof! All of a sudden, I don't care that the dragon is as tall as a department store, or that it could crush me beneath 1 foot with ease. I just want to save her. I told Leof I'd protect her, and that's exactly what I intend to do. Leof, hold on! I'm just a weak teenage girl who hates running. I always tried to get out of PE whenever it's possible, much to Miss Whitman's disgust. I'm no sprinter. I can't hack marathons. When it comes to high jump, my short legs are a woeful disadvantage. I have no endurance at all, and physical strength, you can forget it. I'm incredibly weak. But none of that matters now. I can't focus on my own shortcomings. I need to save Leof, no matter the cost. Leof might be a knight, but she's not invulnerable. She bleeds red just like me, and her bones are just as fragile. She'll break. She'll hit the ground, and no matter how I try to catch her, I know it won't do any good. She's falling too quickly. I can try to catch her, but it'll be in vain. I'll be crushed. Did it not throw? Okay, it must have missed. But hey, Haley, how you doing? I'm gonna mute for a second. I'm just gonna blow my nose. Hiya, hiya. We had the kiss scene yesterday. We also had a death scene. Leof killed her brother. It's not possible. But then again, dragons aren't either. This night has been one string of crazy, impossible events, one after another, and that makes it a little easier to believe that things will work out. I just need to have faith. Yeah, you missed it. I mean, the video's still up, and I'm thinking about I've been saving the videos. I'm thinking about putting them on YouTube, but I'm not sure yet. I'm an ordinary girl with an ordinary life, but I've become embroiled with something extraordinary. I need to become extraordinary too if I'm to rise to this challenge, and I will. I want to help Leof. I care about her. And I love her. And the moment this thought crosses my mind, she goes Super Saiyan and saves her. Gran's planet exudes a strange light, even brighter than that of the moon, which hangs above our heads. Time slows to a crawl. I see Leof falling, and I reach out, arms outstretched, mouth wide. I can rescue her. I know I can. My body has been imbued with some kind of strange arcane magic. The world around me is muting. The forest isn't as it was before. The dragon isn't what I thought it was either. Gran said the necklace would protect me from harm. I kept hold of it to humor her, but I figured it was one of the many symptoms of her advanced age. I thought she'd gone loopy, but she was right about the fairies. Why wouldn't she be right about this? Magic exists within the forest. And it exists within inside this necklace Gran gave me. It's magic that will protect me no matter what. And with it, I can protect Leof too. That's a cute scene. I reach out, plucking Leof from the air like an apple from the tree, and press her body against my chest before she can hit the ground. There's no bruised skin, no broken bones, no bleeding, no wounds, no hurt, no pain. It's just her and I, my arms around her and hers around mine. I hold her trembling body close as one might treasure a child after a particularly bad nightmare. She winds her arms about me, her shoulders shaking. Marnie, oh Marnie, I could see my whole life flashing before my eyes. I was afraid I really was going to die. It's alright, you don't need to be scared, I'm with you. But I thought, I was afraid I was going to die and then no one would be able to protect you. I was terrified of failing my mission, no of failing you. I would hate for you to be hurt because of my own stupidity. I examine Leof, frowning. She looks rather worse for wear. Her hair is badly rumpled and her eyes are frenzied. Her face is pasty white like a ghost. She came very close to dying just a few moments ago. But I stopped that. I saved her. I did my best to help her, but... You were worried about me? Of course I was. You mean the world to me. Is the dragon dead? No. Leof ran off up a falling tree to jump on the dragon's back. And, the dragon didn't like it, couldn't get her off, so he took to the air. Okay, I'll wait for you. They did pretty well with the music on here. Waiting on the ads. Hi, Cape. Hi, cutie. Good luck finishing the game. Thank you, thank you. I've been trying. I do want to get it straight that I am enjoying the game. I thoroughly am, but... Finish the game. What game? Yeah, this is a visual novel. This isn't a game. This is real life. This is heartache and bloodshed and fighting dragons. Okay. So, they encountered the battle, and, Leof was, hitting the dragon with her sword, but it wasn't doing any damage. So she decided that she needed height. So as the dragon was destroying one of the trees, she used it to run up as fast as she could, and she jumped on the dragon's back. And the dragon couldn't get her off of him, and so he took to the air. He has wings. So he started flapping and flying, and she couldn't keep her grip and fell. So she was way, way up in the air. And then Marnie wanted to save her, so she ran for her. I'm not really sure what she was going to do, because even if she caught her, she knew that it would kill her. But something about the necklace that Gran gave her is a magical. Yeah, it's just airborne. It's still up there. So that's where we're at now. The necklace gave her like superhuman strength to save Leof. So while you were falling to your deaths, you cared more about my fate than yours. Weren't you afraid of being squished flat like a pancake? What's a pancake? It doesn't matter what a pancake is. Don't you think you've got your priorities all messed up? Well, I have never been overly concerned with my own safety. That's why my father and brother were worried about me. They thought that I was foolish, and maybe I am. But how else could I become a knight? If I thought too much about myself, I would never have been able to pick up a sword and go into battle. You really are selfless to a fault. Am I truly selfless, though? I told myself I wanted to help others for the sake of it, but my actions were more self-serving than that. Flee off a fucking blood knight. True. Stretchy. I mean, it's one thing to be selfless and think of others, but there's another to not think of yourself at all. You can still think of yourself. I think true selflessness would be caring about your own safety and then putting other safety first. If you don't have any care for your own safety to begin with, it's not selfless. Self-sacrificing, maybe? I wanted to feel like I deserved to be a knight despite all the naysaying. I wanted to prove everyone wrong. That's why I rode out into dangerous quests, so everybody told me it was crazy. They were right, too. Maybe they were, but you held true to your own ideals and you never gave up. That's why I care about you so, and that's why I want to help you. I might be an average teenager with a below-average score in the high jump, but this forest isn't a normal place. The roots of the trees themselves are imbued with magic. And when I'm here, even I can make the impossible happen. Oh, Marnie, I'm really glad I met you. And you. Leof smiles at me fondly. She traces my cheek gently with her knuckles, and my whole body shivers. I wish I could continue to hold her. That would let me know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that this is really real and Leof isn't dead. But I can't. We still need to worry about the dragon. At least, that's what I thought, but... My, what a touching scene. Two lovers were able to overcome the challenges presented to them, and they lived happily ever after. Fairy tales are supposed to go something like that, aren't they? Foo. A cool, icy laugh creeps down my spine. I can't see the speaker, but I know who it is. A voice that low and mocking could only belong to one person. Lynette, is that you? Show yourself, you vile witch. I don't particularly like answering to vile witch. It is incredibly rude to address one by an insult rather than their own name. But I suppose this is as much courtesy as I can expect from a girl who would rather be a knight than a real person. What do you mean? I am a real person. I am indisputably real. Now, where are you hiding? What are you trying to say? And Leof pauses. She glances around a little too wide. Eyes a little too wide. What happened to the dragon? What happened to the dragon indeed? It should be rather obvious. But you were never the sharpest spearhead in the armory. If you're still confused, perhaps I can spell it out for you, my dear. Lynette appears upon the bough of a nearby tree, one leg folded over the other. She's wearing her favored black robes, and her long hair falls over her shoulder and waves. Her hood is up, as per usual, obscuring her face. I can't see her eyes or her nose, but her mouth remains visible, her lips curved in a truly chilling manner. I am the beast for which you fought against so ardently. I am the dragon that lurks within these woods, and I have killed untold scores of young men over the years. No, that cannot be. But it is. I remember it well, for my memory is not nearly as poor as yours, my dear Leof. The men who tried to stand against me were all so young, so bold, and so brave. They were determined to prove themselves. They wanted to impress their beloved, or rescue others to taste glory, but all they tasted in the end was a gall of defeat. None were able to best me. I was quite without peer. My ferocity knew no bounds, and I could cut down the elderly, women, or children without hesitation. It was different when I faced her, though. It was always different with her. I have no idea what it is you speak of. You were talking in riddles. I thought you said when we met you earlier that you didn't want to hurt us. You claim you had no desire to cause us harm. I don't. That much still holds true, but though I tried to kill you not 5 minutes hence, you must understand I wasn't quite in my right frame of mind. My body warps and twists during the full moon. I become a horrible dragon, the likes of which you could find in a fairy tale. I cannot control my bloodlust during this time, but when I awake the following morn, as a human woman, I remember all the atrocities I committed. My hands are stained with blood, but I never wished to take any lives. I was cursed, and it was a cross I have borne for centuries. Right, so you're the dragon. I mean, at this point, why not? Nothing in this forest is quite what it seems. Maybe I'll turn into a vampire for good measure. It'd be preferable to being a short, dainty human girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. It's a free-for-all. But if you are cursed, how did you turn back into a human? I was unable to best you. It makes no sense. Now, I can explain quite simply. The curse was lifted, albeit momentarily, by the talisman your little friend carries. The trinket in her pocket may seem like a piece of bric-a-brac, but it contains within a high concentration of magical power. It was enough to save you during your fall. And it was even able to revert the curse placed on me, though the full moon remains high in the sky. I know not where that necklace came from, but I knew it to be powerful when I first sensed it. I hoped it would be enough to sever the curse that binds me, and I hoped it would be enough to finally open your blinding eyes to the truth. What truth? What are you talking about? So you have not realized, after all that Edmund told you. How sad. Lynette tuts. You really are dense. How could you not have figured it out? It is enough to make me cry, but I suppose I can always give you another hint. Do you recognize me now? Lynette jumps from the tree. She lands nimbly like a cat, her hood falling from her face during the descent. The fabric bunches back to reveal the features she hid for so long. She's kind of pretty. Finally, I'm face to face with the witch, and when my eyes meet hers, I find myself gasping. Though her hair and her eyes are different, her features are remarkably similar to Leoth's. Everything about them, from the shape of their noses to the curve of their lips, is almost identical. Now, what if, because last stream, Edmund was hinting at that both Edmund and Leoth, this Leoth, was not the real Leoth and Edmund. That this Leoth was like a spirit copying Leoth. Now, what if whoever kills the dragon takes on the curse? So this is the real Leoth. And she's been alive since the thing. What is this? Leoth draws back, aghast. Why do you have my face? This must be some sort of trick. Ah, yes. I thought you might say that. That's what I was giving her the Marnie's voice. Ah, yes. That is what you might say. That is why I went to the courtesy of hiding my real face from you. I rather wanted to avoid this tedious confrontation. I had hoped you would remember yourself when given due time, but I forgot how stubborn you are. You have always been a handful. Or maybe, Leoth's mom. I have no idea what you're talking about. I do not know you at all. Stop trying to trick me. Oh, please, as if I would try to trick you. If I truly wished to cause you harm, I would have eaten you while I was still under the influence of that awful enchantment. I was able to hold myself back. I would never want to hurt you, even if you are to blame for all this. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. You might not remember it. Perhaps one could say you conveniently forgot, but you were the one who distorted this forest with your magic on that fateful day all those years ago. No, that cannot be true. Yes, it is. And we have all been paying the price for it. This is your fault, Lisbeth, my little sister. Your sister? No. Leoth, or is it Lisbeth, takes another step back, her eyes a little too wide for her face. I am not. I cannot be. I am Leoth, aren't I? That is what you seem to believe, but you have been asleep for a very, very long time. Your mind must be muddled, my dear sister, but don't worry, I will tell you everything whether you want to hear it or not. We can't keep dancing around these issues any longer. You really are my sister. You were the cause of all this chaos, and it is time you took responsibility for your actions. How in the hell would she be her sister? Once upon a time, a long time ago, myths and legends run rampant across England. People believed that shape-shifting monsters really did prowl the forests, and stories of King Arthur were widely circulated. In these tumultuous times, magic thronged in the air, and fairies were simply matter of course. That was one of the few things the residents of our small island could agree on. During this era, the country was split into numerous kingdoms, all vying for power. In the north, there were Bernicia and Jair. In the south, Wessex, Sussex, and Kent. One of the largest kingdoms was Mercia, which was situated in the center of England. The kingdom was ruled by King Ceanwulf and later King Thinahelm, who was canonized as a saint. Thinahelm ascended the throne when he was but a young boy, and he oft had prophetic dreams. One such dream warned him of his imminent death. As the following day, during a hunt in the forest with his power-hungry relatives, his head was severed from his shoulders by his sister's lover, Ascobert. The tangled lives of Mercia's many rulers has little to do with our tale. However, we needn't concern ourselves with disgraced or deposed royalty, for the present at least. This story begins with a significantly more mundane list of dramatized personae. In Mercia, near the border of East Anglia, there was a peasant family. They were a normal family who lived in a small, humble home in a small, humble settlement. The family was comprised of a mother, a father, and 2 daughters, and they loved one another dearly. This family was not an ordinary as they first appeared, however. The mother, you see, and her 2 daughters after her, had been blessed by the fairies, and they could see and do things other humans could not. This family earned their coins by selling herbs and potions to the weary travelers, and in doing so they were able to make a decent living. They did not earn so much that they could eat rabbit or venison on the regular. They could buy food regardless, and fix the holes in their thatched roof. Time trickled by, and this family were happy and well contented with one another. Their lives were not glamorous by any means, but they were surviving, which was more than they could say for some. That is, at least, until a deposed prince from East Anglia heard about this intriguing family. The prince had been quite overlooked by his father and would never ascend to the throne, despite or perhaps because of his vaunted ambition. He had been written out of his father's will entirely, and it was his younger brother, not he, who became East Anglia's next ruler. The prince could not stand this slight against his honor, and so, in an act of rebellion, he traveled the land searching for somebody who could help him reclaim what he thought he was birthright. It did not take the prince all that long before he heard the rumors about the family of witches that lived in Mercia and their beautiful daughters. According to local legend, these 2 daughters were unnaturally powerful. The potions brewed by their slender hands could calm all raging fevers, or prevent any manners of infection, or even reverse deaths. These girls could make plants grow simply by singing to them, and their blood contained healing properties that could close up all wounds. They could see fairies, and they could speak to them. They could speak to the animals that roam the woods too, from the smallest of birds and the grizzled, angry bears. Flowers bloomed where they walked, and they were forever cloaked in a faint, sweet fragrance like honey. These girls were witches, yes, that much was obvious. They were white witches, pure and good, who devoted themselves wholeheartedly to helping others. What if Marnie's a witch? The prince knew a bit of magic himself, but his powers were not strong enough to chance a coup. First he needed support, and where better to find that in the arms of a beautiful witch. The prince set out to meet this family, he demands heavy upon his lips. He wanted to marry the oldest daughter, who at the time was in her 18th year, and bring her back to his kingdom. Then the 2 of them would use their powers to overthrow his younger brother and forcibly take their throne. The deposed prince offered the family precious jewels and gold, and any number of beautiful clothes in exchange for the older sister's hand. The girls' parents hesitated. They loved their 2 daughters and did not wish to be parted from them. Neither did they trust the prince's ambitions. His schemes were far too lofty, and they feared His bloody rebellion would only result in the death of their older daughter. The older daughter, too, was skeptical. She found the prince rude, boorish sort of a man, and she would soon have wed one of the wild wolves that roam the forest and take his hand. At least the brutish animals can be tamed by kind words and affectionate gestures. Brutish men, on the other hand, they are an entirely different matter. Well, you can imagine how well this unanimous rejection went down with the prince. So enraged was he at being scorned by these social inferiors, he cast a curse upon the oldest sister, whose beauty had captured his heart. He cursed her so that, during the full moon, her visage would be transfigured into a hideous dragon. In her cursed form, she would be doomed to kill all those who stood in her path, consumed by the prince's own deluded hatred and anger. By the by, the princess himself was assassinated when he returned to his own kingdom of East Anglia. His younger brother had quite wisely ascertained that his sibling was plotting against him, and he wanted to nip the promise of rebellion in the bud before it could bloom. The younger brother shed no tears over this, for he had never much cared for the company of his older sibling. Neither had anybody else. Can you imagine why? But I digress. Though the deposed prince's magical power was not particularly strong, his hatred reinforced his lackluster abilities. The curse held firm, no matter how the girl's frantic family tried to lift it. It was all quite useless. Okay, so the prince apparently had power too. Probably why he was so adamant about it being real. Yet his power was strong enough to take over a family of witches, powerful witches that was known across the land, and curse them. There's a few plot holes here. Left with no other choice, the mother and father returned to their youngest daughter for help. Please, dear Lisbeth, they petitioned her, though you are only young, we are in need of your aid. Can you travel across Mercia to find the antidote and free your sister of that prince's curse? The youngest sister was only 15 years old at the time, and she was helpless, naive. She had spent most of her life in her parents' home, brewing potions, picking mushrooms in a nearby forest. It was a quiet, sedentary kind of life, peaceful and quiet without any promise of adventure. The girl had quickly tired of such an existence and had always longed to explore the outside world. Cruel so it was, she could not help but be somewhat pleased by her older sister's condition, for finally, she had a chance to travel on her own. Freedom was now hers, and she intended to savor it. "All right, my dear mother and father," she said, as the very picture of contrition. "I shall do my best to help my sister. You can stay here and watch over her. I shall help her. You have my word." But the whole while the girl's heart was pounding and her palms were sweating, she could taste opportunity on her tongue. Finally, she would have adventure and excitement, and maybe she would even be able to find few friends. It would be just like the myths and legends her mother had told her. This was the moment that her life would begin, and so the young girl set off the journey into the unknown. God, this is going on forever, ain't it? She traversed Marcia by foot, a cloak draped around her shoulders to fend off the wintry wind as she searched for the antidote to lift the sister's curse. She knew she had to hurry, for during the full moon, her sister would transform into a wicked dragon. Then she would put to all those she loved in mortal peril. The girl traveled far and wide until her feet were rubbed red raw, but she was unable to find an antidote to help her sister. She did, however, see a great many unusual sights, and none was more unusual than the tale I'm to recount. Oh, we're just getting... Okay, so all that other stuff didn't matter. We're just now getting into the story. So... Goodness gracious. Can we please get back to Leof and Marty? One day, when the sun was high, the girl spotted two knights sparring in the forest, their swords crossing with much clangor. Now, this sight in and of itself was not very unusual. Hundreds of young men across Mercia wished to be knights, no doubt inspired by the stories of King Arthur and the peerless courage and chivalry. Mercia was constantly at war with the neighboring kingdoms, and the young men across the land wished to prove their mettle. They wanted to hone their skills in the bow and sword so they might fight the invaders from Dyra or East Anglia or Wessex. But there was something rather unusual about one of the knights. They were not wearing a helmet, perhaps they could not afford one. Their bodies were concealed with nothing, not with shining armor, but with green tunic. Their fair hair was loose, and it streamed behind them like a banner. It didn't take the wandering girl long to discover the supposed knight was, in fact, a woman. The girl had never seen a woman wield a sword before. She had not thought it possible. It seemed like something from a story. Though the woman was fending off a foe far taller than she was, she did not falter, neither did she seem all that afraid. She continued to dance about her foe like a dust mote, flickering first here, then there, then until her foe was quite dazed. Till with a loud clang the woman's sword struck true, and her foe was felled. "That was a good match, dear brother," the woman said, sheathing her sword. "But I'm afraid it wasn't good enough. Try as you might, you will never be able to best me."
"But Leof,"
the man said, wincing as he drew off his helmet.
"Do you not see what you are doing? You are worrying our poor father sick, playing at being a knight like this. You don't even have a helmet, nor any real armor."
"You could always give me yours."
"You know I cannot. This is our grandfather's. He wore it to do battle with the East Anglians. He was a fine warrior, but he still died on the battlefield. You, meanwhile, are only a woman. You do not see how much danger you are putting yourself in."
"I may only be a woman, Edmund," said Leof archly, "but I was able to defeat you, was I not?"
"Yes, but..."
"Then you needn't worry about me. I will continue to fight, and you can stay at home and look after father. I shall protect our country in our stead. I wear the pants in this family."
"But you shouldn't be protecting anything. As a woman, you should be back at home, cooking and cleaning. Your place is by the hearth."
"Oh, my dear brother," said Leof, smiling gently. "You know that you have always been the better cook than I, and I can scarcely thread a needle. I am all fingers and thumbs, really. I was not cut out for delicate things like that. Maybe we should swap genders."
"Then how can you stand to swing a sword about?"
"That is different."
"I fail to see how. A woman who can't thread a needle has no business fighting. One day you will get killed."
"Oh, I see. You're not good enough to do man things because you're not even good enough to do woman things. I don't know. And one day, my dear brother, you'll make yourself sick with worrying. Do not fret so much. I shall be fine."
"But Leof..."
"And before I go, I think I will take Mopinos with me. He will make my journey rather simpler." Yeah, they throwing those gender norms around. Leof made her way to the white horses, who was tied up to a nearby tree stump. Her defeated brother could only watch, nursing the wound in his chest with narrowed eyes.
"You do not know what you are doing, Leof. Women should not fight. It's an affront to God."
Ah, now throwing religion into it. "I think it would be more of an affront to me to remain at home, my head bowed, when I know the East Anglians are plotting to attack, and I know my services could be of some use in tumultuous times such as these. We must do all we can. I would rather protect my father from foes than poison him with my sorry attempts at cooking."
"You are being ridiculous. Please listen to reason."
But Leof did not listen. Patience had never been one of her strong points. Instead, she seated herself upon her brother's horse. Mopinos had always liked her more anyway, and turned galloping off into the forest. Lisbeth thought of this encounter long after the sound of the horse's hooves faded into the distant memory. She thought of the strange girl as she made her way into the nearby inn, and she thought of the girl as she ate her food. She thought of the girl when she went to sleep at night. Now there was somebody who was willing to live life to the fullest. The female knight had been bold and bright, her smile even warmer than the sunshine. Her eyes had been blue enough to drown in like twin lakes, and her hair was streaming gold corn. Gold corn. I'm getting a little confused. Yeah, like blue eyes and blonde hair. So, like, Marnie. Okay. She had not been brave, though that in itself had been enough to make Libby's heart pound. She had been very beautiful, too. If I could explore the land like that, unfettered, Elizabeth mumbled to herself as she tried and failed to succumb to sleep that night. I would be able to smile like her, if only I did not have to return home then. But Elizabeth didn't finish that thought, not aloud at least. She could not let herself ponder the possibilities of not returning home, for her parents and her older sister were relying on her. They needed to find a cure for her sister's enchantment so their lives could go back to normal. Another ad. Sippies. Hi, Cat de Luniere. Hello. Welcome to the stream. I'm just waiting for ads to get cleared out. I think we're getting near to the end of the story. I have the ad set up a certain way, but honestly, I almost wonder if just the standard would be better. Okay, we're almost back from ads. The ads are a bit obnoxious. Back to normal? Does that mean I would be picking mushrooms in the forest and grinding medicine with, say, mortar and pestle until the day I died? That was my phone. Elizabeth was not particularly enthused about this idea. She wanted to explore Mercia most desperately when she was younger. Now she had a chance she did not wish to return. Thing that a night had filled her mind with thoughts and dreams, even more numerous than the stars beyond the window. Ah! Thank you, I'll sit down. Thank you. I'm glad the throwing system's working now. For some reason, because they did an update recently, and then it turned off, it unnamed my throwing redeem thingies. So then it didn't work anymore. Elizabeth was not particularly enthused about this idea. She had wanted... okay, I have to read this part. Next part. She looked like she was enjoying life, regardless of what others said. I wish I could be like that, too. But Elizabeth was sure she would never see the girl again. Mercia was a large kingdom, and their encounter had been nothing more than a fluke. It would be most unlikely for their paths to cross a second time. But the fate works in mysterious ways, and was not 1 week later that the pair met anew. Elizabeth had been searching the forest, looking for any rare herbs or flowers that might be able to help her sister when it happened. 2 men approached her, natty cloaks pulled low over their faces. Though she could not see their eyes, she saw their crooked smiles, a few missing teeth here and there, and their faint smell of alcohol on their breaths.
What a lovely girl. Now, what are you doing out in the forest all on your own, little lass? Would you care to come with us? We have somewhere nice and warm you can stay to rest your aching bones. Let us take care of you, why don't you?
Elizabeth got to her feet, her face gritted, her fingers gripping about the hilt of her small knife she kept concealed in her pocket. She used the knife to cut stems of flowers and plants more neatly, so as not to waste their precious sap. but it would be more than enough to slice their delicate skin of even a grown man's throat. Though Lisbeth had led a sheltered life, she knew exactly what those men wanted. They were nothing more than crooks who preyed upon innocent girls who did not know any better. They reeled them in with enticing promises of warmth and safety, and then they took advantage of them. These girls were sold into slavery or worse. Lisbeth had no desire to meet such a fate. She had to save her sister. Bye, Haley. Good luck at work.
You're a quiet one, aren't you? One of the men crooned to her, grinning unpleasantly. Cat got your tongue? Come on, girlie, don't be shy, we won't hurt you. We just want to help you.
I'll keep listening to during my trip there. Just make sure to stay safe on the roads and stuff. Elizabeth sized up her adversaries up. They were taller than she was, but she was sure she could defeat them. She was rather skilled with a knife. She could cut many herbs in her time, and what's more, she knew magic. She doubted the men would be able to best her if she set their cloaks on fire. She weighed up her options, waiting for the precise moment to strike, but Lisbeth, as it transpired, never had to dirty her hands. A voice cried out, startling her and both the men. Enough, briggards. You leave this young maiden alone. It was a feminine voice which sounded distinctly familiar. Upon hearing it, Lisbeth found herself shaking. She turned, hardly daring to believe, and yet... there she was, sitting astride a white horse. It was the knight she'd seen sparring in the forest 1 week prior. Miss Knight? So you know of me, Leof said, a smile on her face. I suppose I should be flattered. It seems my reputation precedes me.
Hey, one of the men cried out, annoyed at the interruption. What's a woman like you doing out here, on a horse no less?
I was just passing by when I happened to see you two knaves threatening this poor woman. Now be away with you, unless you wish to taste my sword.
A woman with a sword, is it? Now that's rather novel. Some people might find it amusing, but I find it tedious. You should know your place.
You would speak to a knight like that? Leof said archly. I believe you are the ones who should know your places, but no matter, I can soon educate you. Lisbeth watched on, her eyes wide, as Leof dismounted from her horse and drew her sword. The two men, as it transpired, were armed with daggers. They were still no match for Leof's blows. Though they had looked down upon her as a mere woman, their complacency was their downfall. Leof dispatched both of them under 30 seconds, and she didn't even break a sweat. Well, that hardly counts as exercise, Leof said as two scoundrels ran off through the trees. What a shame, but I suppose I cannot expect too much for brigands like that, my lady, she said, now turning to Lisbeth. Are you hurt? Lisbeth was not physically hurt, no, but her heart was pounding harder than it ever had before, and her cheeks were burning. For some reason, it was hard to simply to look into the knight's eyes, but Lisbeth knew she had to try. She had dreamed of seeing the knight again, and now her wildest fantasies had been fulfilled. She could not let the moment pass. You can do this, Lisbeth, she told herself. Do not be a wet blanket now, just talk to her. Lisbeth's first lesbian encounter, for real. So Lisbeth opened her mouth and said hesitantly, Oh no, I am quite all right, thank you. Well, if you are sure, Leof said after a pause. And do you have anywhere to return to? Where is it that you're going? About that, well, the thing is, I don't rightly know. You do not know where you are going? No, not entirely at least, for you see... Lisbeth knew she should tell the knight about her mission, but she did not want to think of her family or their problems. She had been tied to them for her whole life, but now she had a chance to escape. Selfish though it might have seemed, she wanted to experience life for herself, on her own terms. She wished to live the way she wanted to live and learn what true happiness felt like. If she was with the knight, Lisbeth was sure even a gloomy girl like her would be able to smile. And so she said after much deliberation, Excuse me, brave knight, but I was wondering something. What is it, my lady? the knight asked, smiling. She almost always smiled. Do you need help with something? I'd be more than happy to aid you. Well, it's just, that is, Elizabeth said, stumbling over her words like a reluctant pony. Her cheeks turned pink and she shook her head, then she tried again. It is not I who need your help, but rather I was wondering if you needed me. Oh? And why would you say that? Are you offering me your services? That's right. You helped me once, so I thought it'd be only right to return the favor. And I am not bad at healing, Elizabeth confessed shyly. She could not help but be shy. This was her first time, you understand, talking to a girl close to her own age, save her sister. I know a bit about herbs, too. If you ever find yourself in danger, you can rely on me, I promise. So you wish to accompany me on my journey? I do, Elizabeth said, nodding her head. I do indeed. I want that more than anything. But why would a nice girl like you wish to accompany me? I am impulsive and impetuous, and I always run headlong into danger. I would not put you in harm's way. Elizabeth's a shy cootie. Oh, but you would not be harming me, Elizabeth argued, her face alight with possibilities. I want to journey with you because... Because of the wonderful things we do. Okay, so. Because I've never had the chance to travel before, and I want to see some of the world that surrounds me. It was frightening on my own, but if I could be with you, I think I would grow to appreciate life a little more. Elizabeth knew deep down that she was making a poor decision. Her parents had sent her off into Mercia so she could help her sister. That's a little, messed up. Because, like, the reason that they turned down the prince was because they were fearing for the eldest sister's life. Sure, she's cursed, but she's alive. And you're just sending the younger daughter out. She could never come back. She could die. And just like those men, they could have got the best of her if, like, she didn't get away or couldn't, like, properly set them on fire and stuff. She would have gotten hurt, killed, whatever. I don't know. It just seems like they cared less about the younger sister. Elizabeth had led a sheltered kind of life. Her parents said it was for her own good. You know, magic, Elizabeth. If others caught you on your own, you would be in great danger. People often try to use witches for their own ends, but Elizabeth was less certain. All her life, she had wanted to explore the world beyond the walls of her parents' home. Now she had the chance. She didn't want to waste it. Why should she care so overly much about her sister's fate anyway? Lynette was older by her than by 3 years. As her elder sister, Lynette was supposed to care for her, but nothing could be further from the truth. Lynette was a bully, who often delegated tasks to Lisbeth, and whenever things went wrong, Lisbeth was always received the blame. Lisbeth loved her sister, she supposed, but she did not particularly like her. In the end, it was almost too easy for Lisbeth to walk away from that. She asked the knight, her eyes shining with admiration, if she could join her. And the knight, after some deliberation, eventually agreed. That is how the two girls came to travel across Mercia together, fighting monsters that posed a threat to the general populace and sleeping beneath the stars. Lisbeth used her magic to craft Leof a new sword that would not shatter, and armor that could protect her from any foe. The young witch had never used her powers to create items that could kill before. She had only ever used magic hands to make potions or heal wounds, but everything was different now. Lisbeth felt different too. She cared for Leof more than she had cared for anybody, and she desperately wanted to help her in her quest. Others mocked Leof's attempts to become a knight, but Lisbeth would always support her. That was because she loved her. Whenever skirmishes erupted between Mercia and East Anglia, or Mercia and Dare, or Mercia and Wessex, Leof was right there to fight, sword in hand. The knights who would have objected to a woman's presence had little to say when Leof disguised her identity beneath cold, unfeeling armor. When they didn't know Leof was a woman, she was welcome like any soldier might be, and all praise at her skills was her sword. Leof might have been a woman, but she was not all squeamish when it came to blood. She could cut down any normal number of men with relative ease. Her movements light and nimble as though she was dancing. It reminds me of one of those Simpsons memes. I'm not quite sure if I know the meme. Whenever skirmishes erupted between Mercia and East Anglia, she didn't pause, and neither did she falter. Her confidence in herself never wavered, and her pride as a knight was unshakable. She was a model knight through and through. But the moment the truth behind Leoth's gender was revealed, the knights she had once fought with as equals began to distance themselves from her. No longer did they see her skill and raw talent. Instead, they asked, brows raised at a woman was doing in battle. But why was she not at home peeling carrots and stoking the fire and tending to her father? These questions felt thick and heavy, like snow, until Leof began to buckle under the pressure. Perhaps that was why, some 2 years after she began adventuring with Elizabeth, she came to a conclusion. I am going to defeat the dragon. Send it to you in Discord. Okay, I'll look at it at some point. Actually, I can pull it up on my phone. Got a little chuckle out of me. I'm going to defeat the dragon that lurks deep in the forest, said Leof decisively. Then I will prove to everybody how serious I am about being a knight. Nobody will mock or insult me then. But it will be dangerous, Elizabeth said, who had heard the stories about the vicious dragon. What if it hurts you? It will be fine. You will be with me, like always, and you should be able to heal me. You have proven yourself to be an excellent nurse during our adventures. So basically, it's going to be her lover versus her sister. It is true that I can heal scrapes and cuts, but you have never picked a fight with a dragon before. It has killed dozens upon dozens of men. Will you really be able to best it? I think so, yes. Many men have charged it and failed, but I shall be the first woman. It has never killed a member of the fairer sex before, and it never shall, either. You say that, but... Are you getting cold feet? You are beginning to sound like my dear brother. No, I don't mean to tell you what to do. Of course I will go with you. Of course, Elizabeth said, mustering up what little scraps of determination she had. Elizabeth was afraid of facing the dragon, but more than that, she was afraid of Leof facing the dragon. She did not want Leof to die. She had been traveling with her for 2 years at this point, and Leof was her whole world. She had abandoned her family, who had loved her dearly. So she could travel by Leof's side. And if Leof died, she didn't know what she would do. She adored Leof from the bottom of her heart. Elizabeth had never told Leof this. She was too shy, too awkward, too afraid of being rejected. All she could do was help Leof from afar. That was more than enough for her, though Elizabeth told herself she would content herself with that much if only Leof would stay alive. If Leof meant to challenge that fierce dragon, Elizabeth would do all she could do to help her. Their fates were inexorably tied together. Wherever Leof went, Elizabeth would follow. That was simply how things were. Determined anew, Elizabeth sealed... I think I'm having a little bit of trouble keeping up with what they're trying to portray through the story. So is Leof actually Leof, like the brown-haired knight that we know of? Because they were talking about blonde hair, blue eyes. Or is that... Because Elizabeth was fawning over the knight, which had blonde hair, blue eyes. Which we know the knight that we know of has brown hair, brown eyes. Or was that the... I don't know. I think I'm getting some stuff mixed up about where they're trying to go with the story. Determined anew, Elizabeth stilled her nerves, though she was afraid. She refused to let it show. She chased the shivers from her legs. She accompanied Leof as she delved deep into the woods. The trees surrounded them on all sides, and the sun beginning to sink beneath the horizon. The night sky was dark and velveteen. The wind caressed Elizabeth's cheek, so she shivered. It ran through her hair and danced through the trees like dozens of whispers, a whole patchwork of disembodied voices. But Elizabeth was with Leof, and she was not afraid. That was what she told herself, at least. But when the dragon finally did appear, Elizabeth felt the courage desert her. One look from the beast's eyes was enough for the girl to finally realize who that dragon was. As she didn't put the two together, she knew that her older sister was cursed and turns into a beast. In a way, Elizabeth had known the moment she had heard the rumors of the savage villages, charred trees and wake of dead, of dying knights with broken limbs and twisted necks. These stories had only begun to crop up a couple years prior after Elizabeth had left home. Her parents were probably dead already. The parents probably tried to stop her from killing villagers and whoever knights that came, and then died themselves against the dragons, so her parents are probably already dead. She told her parents that she would find an antidote, but she never had. She had, instead, been quite swept up by Leof and her love, and a promise of a new, exciting life. She had tried to forget her family, but they had not forgotten her. Elizabeth could see the recognition in the dragon's eyes, and it almost destroyed her. Her sister still lurked inside that fearsome beast. Through its delirium, it could recognize her. Lynette was still in there somewhere, and Elizabeth did not want to hurt her. She did not want to hurt her, anybody, but she had no choice. All Elizabeth could do was watch on, frozen, her eyes wide, and her beloved knight and her own sister began to fight. Claws locked against Leof's sword, sparks flew in the air. The dragon howled, and Elizabeth clapped her hands over her ears and cowered in fright. She had always been a crybaby. That was why Lynette had teased her so much. Lynette had told her there were monsters in the forest with razor-sharp teeth, and she had believed her unquestioningly. But Lynette had been right. She was the monster now. She had destroyed her old home and killed her parents, and if left unchecked, she would kill everybody else. Lynette had murdered dozens of once brave knights, all desperate to bring her down. It was all Elizabeth's fault. If she had found an antidote for her sister, none of this would have happened. She had failed. I will not let you get the better of me. Leof and the dragon exchanged blows. Leof was able to pierce the dragon's heart with her enchanted blade, but the dragon was berserk with rage, and it was not content to die so easily. It clung onto life, desperate to take at least one person down with it. The dragon turned its head, teeth bared, and with what little energy it had left, it struck out with its sharpened claws. Leof tried to dodge, but for once, the one time when it really mattered, she was too slow. The dragon caught her with its sharpened claws. It ran her through. The dragon's mighty talons pierced Leof's rear rib cage, and blood splattered from Leof's mouth. Okay, so maybe Leof died, and in order to save her, the mage, Lisbeth, gave her body or something to save her life, and that's why she has brown hair, brown eyes or something. Droplets of blood splashed in front of Leof's shirt. They dotted the ground. She was dying. But even as her grip on the blade slackened and her knees hit the ground with a series of dull thuds, there was a small smile upon Leof's face. She had been defeated, yes, but before she spoke her last breath, she'd finally been able to prove her worth. She had killed the dragon. No. Leof, or is it Lisbeth, staggers, her hands clapped over her ears. Or in her grief, took on Leof's, persona. Her face is unhealthily pale and her body is trembling from the crown of her head to the tip of her toes. No, that can't be right. It isn't true, but I... Mira, stop. Stop. It looks like you remember now. The truth is finally beginning to come back to you in bits and pieces. No, that isn't it. It isn't true. It's not. Watch Marnie be the descendant of, the actual knight, Edmund and the real Leof. You can just try to deny it all you want, but it is a futile effort. You must have realized by now, my irresponsible little sister. You liked Leof so much you could not help but idolize her. To you, she was not just a knight. She was a shining beacon of hope. She might as well have been a saint. Saint Leof, can you imagine it? Lynette scoffs. But though you adored her, she was not indestructible. She merely acted like she was. She tried to face me, and she put on the most valiant display. It took all I had to strike her down. In the end, it killed me. No. But it killed her, too. No, that's not... Leof looks at her hands, at the palms facing upward. Her whole body is shaking, and her eyes are a little too enlarged. That kind of makes sense why she was able to heal herself at the beginning. If I really am Lisbeth, then why did I think I was Leof when I woke up? Why was I wearing her clothes and holding her sword? That I cannot say for certain. Only you know the answer to that question. Yeah, Leof, Lisbeth's trauma. But you are Lisbeth. That much is irrefutable. After all, the brave knight who killed me did not look like you a bit. Or look a bit like you. She had blonde hair and blue eyes, but your hair and eyes are brown. Her hair was blonde? Yes, indeed. I remember it clearly. She was beautiful like a doll. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale. Ah, so that's why Edmund thought Marnie looked like his sister and not her. I'm just thinking, going back over some of the dialogue that they had, because he was saying that she was mimicking his sister, but it wasn't actually her. I thought it was a fuck up in the writing. Apparently not, because it... So that also does mean that somewhere along the line that the family line continued. Maybe Edmund took a wife and then had children. Or maybe another sibling. But you have always been a plain... our features are alike, but everybody said I was the prettier sister. Sisters, I see. Maybe that is right. Lisbeth presses her fingertips against her face. She feels her cheeks and her lips and the bridge of her nose as though she's touching them for the first time. She runs her fingers through her hair, smoothing out the knots and the tangles in her brown hair. She lifts her head, eyes narrowed, and says, I knew she was going to die, but I couldn't accept that. She meant everything to me. I loved her, but I never told her. I was too much of a coward. Yeah, it says Lisbeth now. But still, I wanted to save her. I could not let her disappear. So what did you do? How did you help her? I carried her body deep within the forest. She was faint and losing a lot of blood, but she wasn't dead. I laid her to rest inside a secret glade, then protected it with any number of enchantments. It was hard work. I used so much magic, the tips of my fingers felt numb, and the blood in my veins ran cold. But I was determined to protect her. I refused to let anything harm her. And then, I placed a spell on her with my last vestiges of magical energy. I enchanted that pendant Mother gave me. Do you remember it? It was a gift for my 13th birthday. Ah yes, that pendant. It was only a trinket, really made of hollowed out bone and knotted with a leather cord, but it made me jealous all the same. It did not seem fair that my foolish younger sister should receive jewelry when you hadn't had the features to set it off. It was a waste on you. The older sister's kind of a dick. I know, you told me that several times, and you tried to steal it from me. Oh my, did I really? Yes, you tried to steal everything I owned, but I kept it close. You broke my cup and ball and my dolls, but I never let you get your grubby fingers on that. It was one of my most treasured possessions. And you gave that important trinket to your little knight. I did it so it could protect her. I didn't have anything else to hand, and I wanted so badly for her to live. I enchanted that necklace and then draped it around Leoff's neck. I thought if she could rest in the glade, protected by my manifold enchantments, she would be safe. She would sleep forever like a princess from a fairy story. But she wouldn't die. She would stay alive despite her wounds, and I could curl up by her side forever in that grassy hollow. I just wanted to stay with her. I wanted to protect her. No matter what happened, I wanted to be with her. Yes, how very touching. That really isn't a sweet story. That really is a sweet story, but your magic was rather more potent than you thought. What do you mean? Your spell saved Leoff, yes, but it had repercussions. Your magic worked its way through the roots of the trees and the soil beneath our feet, and imbued this whole forest with a strange, peculiar magic that attracted fairies and goblins and race? Indeed. Okay, I'll save it again. Waiting on the ads. I would just turn off the ads, honestly. Okay, are we back? Okie doke, let's continue. Your emotions must have been running rampant because that enchantment of yours was quite out of control. It gave new life to the remains of the knights, which I had long since defeated. It reached Leoff's hapless brother, too, for he had ventured in the forest, meaning to deter her from fighting the dragon. He was unable to make it in time, but your enchantment kept him bound to this forest, unable to move on. It bound me to this forest, too. Leoff killed me, but your spell gave me a new lease on life. I was still alive, but barely, unable to step foot too far beyond the forest before disintegrating. I have been chained to these woods for hundreds of years. I have been quite lost and lonely all these years, with nobody to talk to save for Leoff's brother, and he was quite single-minded, I fear. He did not make for a very good conversational partner. Leoff was the only thing he thought he wanted to talk about. I tried to find the root cause of the spell so I could break it, but all your enchantments kept me away. I was unable to find you. I have been trapped here for hundreds of years while you slept peacefully, unaware of how many problems you and your stupid teenage feelings caused. My feelings weren't stupid. They meant a lot to me. I truly loved Leoff. Does that give you ample excuse to abandon your duties and run off with a shiny new toy? That shiny new toy, as you call her, was nice to me, which is more than I can be said for you. Elizabeth takes a step towards her sister, her eyes narrowed. You were supposed to be my sister, you were supposed to look out for me, but it was the exact opposite. When we were growing up, you were my worst enemy. You threw my shoes in the river, you tied my hair into knots so tight it had to be cut short, and you kicked me under the table at dinner time. Sibling rivalry. Yeah, Lynette deserved all of it. They should have just sold her to the prince, be done with her. You plucked all the blackberries from the forest in the summer, and you never let me have any of them. You ate them all, every last one, even when you got juice all over your lips and cheeks and gave yourself a stomach ache. You couldn't sleep at night because it hurt so much, and I refused to give you any medicine. And I was the one who got scolded. Elizabeth stands there, trembling, her gaze directed at the ground. When you were cursed, I felt glad. I could never get the better of you, but that prince did. I was pleased you finally got what you deserved. So, you think I deserve to suffer for centuries based on some petty childhood squabbles. They may have seemed petty to you, but I was a child back then, and those squabbles were my entire life. I lived a life of being pinched discreetly from when father's back was turned, and having my things stolen and my clothes cut up. It was so bad I couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't stand the thought of going back to that house, and all your mean-spirited abuse. The only thing I could do was run away. I just wanted to be happy. And fine mess you made of that, just like you did with everything else. Your pursuit of happiness cursed this whole forest. You damned us all. Elizabeth winces at this, some of her self-righteous anger evaporating. She looks at her feet, her expression heavy in sighs. And Marnie's just listening to the squabble. It's like, step in and protect her. I know, you're right about that, I suppose I do feel guilty. You were always cruel to me, but I never meant for you to suffer so. I truly do not believe you deserve such torment, though you used to poke your swelling needle beneath my fingernails when we were young. Jesus Christ, this woman is cruel. Yeah, Marnie AXC is not responding. She's just over there listening to all this. You teased me, You teased me and pulled my hair, and sometimes you scratched me so hard I bled, but you were still my sister. I did care about you deep down, but you cared about your knight more. Maybe. I loved you as a sister, but that was born from a sense of obligation. When it come to Leof, though, I don't know. I adored her. I loved her, not because I had to, because I wanted to. She made me so happy that you could not accept that she was gone, even when you were roused from your slumber centuries later. She meant so very much to me that I suppose my memories must have been muddied. My dreams during those centuries must have revolved around her, and when I awoke, I really did think I was her. I knew so much about her, it was easy for me to confuse her memories with my own. She had told me so much about her past during the 2 years we were together, and I had always wished I could be like her. Eventually I convinced myself I was her, but now I know I was deluded. If I had realized I really was Elizabeth, the witch who betrayed her own big sister, the guilt might have consumed me. So you can feel guilty. I was beginning to worry. At least I know you're still a human. Unlike Lynette, she's a fucking monster. She doesn't need the curse to know that she's a monster. Pot calling kettle black. That's right, I am a human. Always been a human. I feel things too much, and my feelings get hurt easily. I cry a lot. I know that is why you used to bully me so much. I must admit, your reactions were most amusing. Sadistic. But that was not who I wanted to be. I wanted to be strong and brave like her, and I wanted to smile like the sun. I did not want to regret who I was. I did not want to regret my past. I wasn't always very happy when I was alive. When Marnie gave me a second chance, I was determined to follow Leof's example. I wanted to be happy like her, but I am not her. If I am Lisbeth, not Leof, then... Lisbeth glances around the forest, her brow furrows. What happened to her? Was my magic able to heal her, or... I swallow. I've been paying close attention to this back and forth between these estranged sisters, all the while doing my very best to piece this complex narrative together. I'm not particularly smart. Miss Partridge would be the first person to test that, but all that talk about trinkets made me wonder. If Lisbeth left Leof with an enchanted pendant, then... Oh, maybe Leof is the grandma. She woke up at some point or something and then had her own family. Oh my god, what if the grandma is Leof? We never did see her. No one once said her name. Not exactly certain, but I think I know what happened to Leof. You do? I have a What would they say in White... What would they say in Silent Witness? Hunch? No, that's not quite right. I think they would probably say hypothesis, I guess? Oh my, how amazing. You sound like a detective, Marnie. I am not sure what a detective is, but for a human without any magical powers whatsoever, you are awfully astute. Go on, then. What is your hypothesis, human girl with a strange name? She thinks I have a strange name? This is definitely the case of the pot calling the kettle black. What I just said earlier. But I'll disregard that for now. There are more important matters at hand and mysteries to solve. I am so close to the truth I can almost taste it on my fingertips. Not that fingers can taste. This might sound crazy, but I think Leof recovered from those injuries. She was on the brink of death after being attacked by the dragon, but Lisbeth's magic was able to save her just in time. She cast a protective spell around the glade that nobody could ever hope to penetrate, and then she cast an enchantment upon her mother's pendant. She wound the pendant around Leof's neck, and exhausted after using so much energy, she went to sleep. While Elizabeth slept, the magic imbued in the pendant worked its way through Leof's body. She made a full recovery, and then she opened her eyes. When she woke up, she was deep in the heart of the forest. Maybe she was a bit confused at first, and she didn't know what had happened. But then she saw you sleeping beside her, Lisbeth, and she must have figured it out. She realized that you must have used your magic to rescue her, and for that she was grateful. She didn't want your sacrifice to be in vain, so she left an enchanted glade and left the forest. The rest is all conjecture, as the rest of my so-called hypothesis wasn't. But I think she continued to live as a knight. She fought in many battles and drove back dozens of mysterious beasts. She made a name for herself and became a well-respected knight across the land. Then one day she decided to settle down. She had a family and she had children, and she lived happily ever after. She lived until a ripe old age, and she was happy from the bottom of her heart to have met a person like you, Lisbeth. Maybe she didn't love you the way you loved her, but she cared for you, and she never stopped being appreciative, I'm sure of that. Oh, Marnie. That really is a nice story, but that is all it is, a story. Where's your proof? For all we know, Leof could have staggered out of the forest in a daze and been eaten by a wolf. A wolf? Leof's face turns pale. She shudders, pressing one hand against her mouth as though to ward off any nausea. No way, that would never happen. Leof was strong, noble knight. She could look after herself. But she was weak and dazed after her skirmish with me, if you do recall. I pride myself on being a fierce woman and an even more fearsome dragon. It would not be so unusual if she had died in this forest. Her bones might have been among those skeleton knights that roam this forest when the full moon is high, seeking revenge. No, that's not true. That's not what happened. Leof lived on. I'm sure that she did. But how do you know that? Because of my grandma. A few days ago, she gave me this. So saying I reached into my pocket and extracted the clue tying us all together, the pendant. The pendant is comprised of a braided leather cord. A circular stone hangs from the cord with a hole carved in the middle. It kind of looks like a big donut. When I first extricated it from the wood jewelry box, I thought, that's all? Like an ungrateful granddaughter might. I only kept it to make Gran happy, but now I can see it's imbued with powers beyond my wildest imagination. Gran wasn't kidding when she said this had been passed down through our family for generations. It's centuries old. I'm sure this is the same pendant Lisbeth enchanted, right here in these woods, in a desperate attempt to save her beloved. It has to be true, it must be. That's what I wanted to believe, at least. And it seems for once my deduction is right on the money. No way, this cannot be possible. But, Lynette, do you see this? Yes, indeed. I did not get a chance to examine this before, so its exact origins were a mystery to me. But now I can tell this pendant is quite plainly. I did wonder, but there's no doubt about it. This is my mother's, but... Lisbeth approaches me on trembling legs, her fingers outstretched as she turns the pendant over. Marnie. Lisbeth looks up with me large, imploring eyes. How did you get your hands on this? It's like I said, Gran gave it to me. Your grandmother? Then that means... She said it was her family heirloom. Apparently her mother gave her that necklace, but it was her grandmother who bequeathed it to my mother, her mother, and her great-grandmother who gave it to her grandmother, and so on and so on. I think you can see where I'm going with this. Oh, I see. For the first time in so long, I finally understand. I was drawn to you, Marnie, for the very beginning. I thought it was a coincidence, but your long blonde hair, your pale skin, even the shape of your nose. You really do look like Leof. Yeah, I guess I probably do. I've never seen her before, but I'm sure Elizabeth is right. I'm many generations down the line, but if I trace my family history back enough, across a complex tree comprised of tangled roots and branches, I'm sure I'd find her eventually. To me, Leof might as well be a shadowy footnote in a history book. I've never met her, and I never will, and yet she's my great, etc. grandmother. We're family. So, Leof was able to live a long, happy life. I'm glad. I'm pleased for her, but... Elizabeth grips the necklace, my necklace, though I suppose once upon a time it belonged to her, tightly, her eyes narrowed. This charm has caused far too much trouble. My desire to save Leof cursed this whole forest. It kept you anchored in place, here, unable to leave, and all those nights, too. I must have poured too much magic into the necklace. It is far too potent. If I undo the enchantment, it should lift the curse. You'll finally be able to pass on, Lynette, just as you should. The souls haunting this place will find eternal rest, and everything will go back to normal. What do you think? Do you want me to undo all the harm I've done? I think it would be grand, yes. I wish you had thought a bit more before you cast that spell, my stupid little sister, but I suppose I cannot be too mad with you. And we're like, what? You are my flesh and blood. You are all I have left in this world. And though as I may have been abominable to you when we were younger, I really do love you. You can feel love? I love you too, Lynette. I think that's the biggest plot twist. Her being able to love. I don't believe that for a damn second. Yeah, holy shit, Lynette. I love you a lot, and that's why I don't want you or anybody else to suffer because of my selfishness. I'll remove this enchantment, and then you can finally rest. Elizabeth closes her eyes and mumbles something beneath her breath. It's light and lilting, like an ocean wave spoken in a strange foreign tongue I can't understand. Is this how people spoke in Anglo-Saxon England all those years ago? If my history teacher were here, I'm sure he'd have a field day. But no, nobody would believe a scene like this. Hundreds of years ago, people across England unanimously believed in witches and dragons and fairies. The country may have been divided into uneven chunks like a child's birthday cake, but superstitions persisted from Sussex to Mercia. That was something the people could put their faith in. Witches and magics were real and concrete, just like saints and angels and miracles. King Sinelhelm had prophetic dreams many centuries ago. This was all a matter of course, but nobody believes in myths and legends now. I could tell my teachers about all the fantastical scenes I've witnessed, but they would never believe me. Nobody would. Instead, I vow to keep these moments shut up inside my own head. A death-defying battle with a vicious dragon, the soft whispers of fairies among the trees, the lilting cadences of bygone language. I remember it all. Even as the magic fades from my pendant, the earth shifts beneath my feet. Lynette is beginning to break away, beads of light dancing about her body like fireworks. She's fading. But with her dying breath, she reaches out to wrap her arms around her sister's trembling shoulders. Lynette, oh Lynette. It's alright, Lisbeth, be strong. Can only be a decent person while dying. We have barely any time together, but you're already vanishing. I know, and it is sad, but I am sure we will meet again. I believe that wholeheartedly. Are you sure? I am now. I hate Lynette. I hate her with a blinding passion. Lynette brings her fingers close to her sister's cheek. She wipes away Lisbeth's stray tears and an affectionate smile playing about her lips. Why are you crying, you silly thing? You never shed tears over me in the past, save for when I teased you. You have no reason to be upset. Didn't you say you were drawn to Leof because of her smile? Yes, that's right. There were many things about Leof I loved, but I particularly adored her smile. Then please try to smile. It would make me happy to see you smile happy too. And will it? In the past, I teased and harassed you. I tripped you up and pinched the inside of your arm and made you cry. You rarely smiled then. I never thought much of it. There was little for me to do, and I liked exerting my dominance over you. It was sort of a sport to me. Yeah, because you're sadistic. I never realized how much I had hurt you. Yeah, of course, that's how people think. Sadistic people don't realize or care that they're hurting others. I was hopelessly poor to you, when I was alive. I must have been a terrible role model, but I think you turned out surprisingly well despite one or two hiccups. Yeah, kids are stupid. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. Now I can finally rest in peace. Lynette, oh Lynette. Lisbeth calls out after the ghostly impression of her older sister, but it's already too late. Lynette has vanished, and so too has the starry night sky above our heads. Well, I don't think we're going to see Lynette again. She's going to hell, okay? So, she's probably burning as we speak. So, once this forest was enchanted by Lisbeth's immense magic. The day could turn into night on a whim, and the strange beings lurked among the shadows, waiting to pounce upon any wayward humans who had lost their way. This forest is no longer strange and twisted. It has since been restored. The sun was shining like it should. I can't hear any mocking, malicious whispers upon the breeze. The skeletal warriors who emerged from the fog have vanished, their decaying souls freed. Lynette. The forest has been cleansed of its curse. I glance around, amazed. The grass has never looked more verdant and blue, flowers more full of life. Birds flit amongst the trees and squirrels chase one another in the undergrowth. Everything's back to normal. And there, lying beneath the base of the sycamore tree like a faithful pet, is an item I thought I'd long since lost. It's Gran's picnic camper. Part of me wonders what it's doing here. Didn't I abandon it farther into the forest? But I suppose it hardly matters. Somehow it makes perfect sense. With the lifting of Lisbeth's curse, all the lost things that have been found, everything has been put in its proper place, including this wicker hamper. I suppose you could call this a perfect happily ever after ending. There are no more loose ends. Apart from one. So, I am still here, huh? Well, I mean, you never technically died. You expended all your magical energy and basically fell asleep, so maybe you're actually still alive and you're here permanently. Lisbeth looks ponderously at her own hands. She turns them over as though expecting them to ripple and flicker like the surface of a lake, but they don't. Her body remains unquestionably solid. Yeah, Lisbeth is all that remains. She has to remain with the guilt, the memories, the everything. Which, I guess they never really kissed, but if she had kissed Leof, then, she had kissed Marnie's great grandmother. Her body remains unquestionably solid. I thought I might vanish with my sister, but she may have, been right about me. I really am stubborn. Still, this is quite the predicament. What am I supposed to do now? Don't you want to experience life in this century, Lisbeth? Don't you have fun? Lisbeth turns to me. Her eyes glaze as though she's only just noticed I'm there. She blinks once, twice, and then... sequel time. Of course I want to experience a new life. All this time I thought I was Leof. I tried to forget who I really was because my life was so hopelessly dull. I spent much of my life in my parents' home brewing potions. My father warned me not to wander too far, for witches were in high demand and he feared what I would come to harm. But it was too late. I came to harm every day by merely being around my sister. She always teased me. That was my life for 15 years. It was one house, and the pond behind it was the edge of the forest, but no further. I was not permitted to wander more than that. It was so boring and dull. I felt like I was going to go mad. I rarely smiled. There was a precious little to smile about. My days were gray and ordinary. Until you met her? That's right, until I met her. Elizabeth glances around the forest, newly freed of its shackles. The grass sways gently at her feet, and the birds among the branches twitter jauntily to one another. If my grandpa were here, I'm sure he'd be able to name the birds by their cries alone. There are blue tits and chaffinches and what else? I'm not sure, but it might be fun to find out. I had a lot of fun with her, but it all ended much too soon. I barely had a chance to live my life before she was torn away from me. I used all my magic to save her, and I fell into an eternal sleep. While I was asleep, I forgot who I was. I forgot everything. Of course I wanted to lead another life, not as Leof, but as myself. I want to experience everything in this century has to offer. I want to go for long walks through the forest. I want to watch TV, and I would very much to know these, McDonald's hamburgers taste like. Everything is so strange and new and exciting, and I want to experience it with you. I want to live my life as a normal girl, not a witch. That's all I ever wanted. Then why don't you? There isn't anything stopping you. You're still here, and I'm here too, so why don't we have fun together? But I don't know if I can. I might not deserve it. But why not? Why don't you deserve it? Because it's all my fault. Elizabeth stamped one foot against the ground, her expression contorted with a series of emotions I can't quite place. She definitely looks pained. Wait, where's Elizabeth gonna live? I don't know. I still stand by what I said several streams ago. If she would just come out and tell Gran what's going on, because she already believes in fairies and all that stuff, she would not only gain someone to live with Gran to take care of her, but she would have a place to live. And with Gran being a teacher, she could teach her how to read and catch her up with the world. And sooner or later have a place in the world and stuff like that. She definitely looks pain, but there's also remorse in there too, and grief and guilt. So much guilt. I'm happy I met you, Marnie. I really did have fun. I loved being with you. I might even have loved you too. But I made so many people suffer because of my selfishness. My sister and Edmund, all those nights. My parents, who must have been worried sick, waiting for my return home. And the humans of the current century who wandered in this cursed forest and never made it back out alive. I've caused too much hurt and pain in my life. I'm not a good person, and I don't deserve another chance. I should remove myself from the century and reunite with my sister in the afterlife. That's all I deserve. No, you're wrong. You don't know that. Yes, I do. But I don't want to listen to another self-effacing, degrading word Elizabeth has to say. I'm sick of it. I just want her to be happy, damn it. And so it is. In a frenzied fit of teenage rebellion, I shut her up the most efficient way I know. Kissing. I looked down waiting for an ad. I was like, watch, there's gonna be an ad right there. Cute. Kiss you. I pressed my lips against hers in a kiss. The two of us stand there while kissing. Elizabeth's frozen at first, like a statue, but she soon responds to my ministrations. She winds her arms around my waist and I about hers. We indulge in the moment for a while, our eyes closed. Her fingers grip the back of Elizabeth's shirt as though in an attempt to pull her even closer. Not that that's possible. We're already as close as we can be. I don't know. You could probably get closer. But that would probably make this a different kind of game. Elizabeth has to stoop into the kiss because she's taller than I am, but then again, everybody's taller than me. Oh no, okay. I'll go back a couple dialogues. I'm back as well. I think I need to reset my position, though. There we go. Elizabeth has to stoop into the kiss because she's taller than I am, but then again, everybody's taller than me. With her back arched, her chest is pressing against mine. I can hear her heart beating in tandem with my own, rapid and erratic, just like a rabbit's. When I draw back, Elizabeth's eyes are glassy. Her hair is a little rumpled. Marnie, you still want to kiss me after everything that's happened? Of course, why wouldn't I? Besides, you're cute, especially when you blush. Elizabeth looks at me for a few moments, stunned into silence. Her lips open and close, but no noise come out. I can't help but grin to myself. It's the same smug grin I always afford myself when I've managed to steal the last hazelnut and caramel chocolate from the box of Quality Street we have at Christmas. My dad calls it my gremlin grin, which is where I got the nickname Gizmo. Making a girl so much taller than me blush is quite satisfying. I'll have to do it more often. But, Marnie... Finally, Elizabeth returns to her senses. Her mouth formed words, and soon her words form more sentences, most of them ending with question marks. I'm not really Leof, you know. I know. But that means I've been lying about my identity this whole time. I am not a knight. I am just a failed witch who ran away from her problems and hurt her family. How can you forgive me for that? Don't forget you killed Leof's brother. I don't have anything to forgive you for. You never did anything wrong to me. You had no real experience with a sword, but you were able to stand against Leof's brother on my behalf. No, skeletons and the dragon. You might have been mistaken about your identity, but you weren't lying. Deep down, I think you were every bit a knight Leof was. You just never had a chance to discover all that hidden courage until now. But the girl you saw is somebody else entirely. She's your own ancestor. Yeah, I guess that's right, huh? That was a bit of a weird twist, even for me. I didn't expect it. But this, me and you, is all wrong. What's wrong about it? Is it because we're both girls? No, of course that's not the problem. I don't mind that at all. Elizabeth smiles at me, and I can't help but smile in return, both of us laughing over a shared secret. Nobody else in Fenchapel would believe that Elizabeth is from a completely different England that existed hundreds of years ago. But she knows, and I know, and that's enough for me. It's more than enough to convince me that this is really happening. But, Marnie, something drew me to you. I thought you looked somewhat familiar, though I couldn't quite place it, and I was right. It has been generations, but you really do look like Leof. It is uncanny, in fact. If you were a little taller, you'd be the spitting image. Gee, thanks for reminding me. I roll my eyes. I know I'm tiny, you don't have to rub it in. I wasn't trying to insult you, I'm just saying. I loved Leof. I loved her a lot. When I looked at her, my heart skipped a beat. I fantasized about her often, and I had so many dreams about her. Elizabeth blushes, her eyes half-lidded. Though I'm not insensitive enough to ask about the nature of these dreams, I think I can make an educated guess. I'm not completely stupid regardless of Miss Galsby thinks. I was never able to confess my feelings to her. I was scared and shy, and I didn't want to be rejected. We were only friends, but my feelings for her were real. I know they were. I loved her, and I can't help but see her in you, though your personalities are completely different. You're related to the woman I love. You share her blood, and you share some of her looks. I can't help but wonder if the person I love really is you, or the memories of her I can see in you. I thought I cared for you, but I might have been mistaken. I don't know if I've truly forgotten Leof. I don't think I ever will. I don't know if I can love anybody other than her, and that's why it wouldn't be fair for me to remain by your side. I don't want to give you false hope. So, you're afraid you don't really love me. Please don't try to understand. I know I like you, but this situation is so complicated. It's hard for me to pick apart the feelings inside my heart. I don't really know how I'm supposed to feel. This is all so confusing. You can say that again. It's pretty screwed up, but though I do like her, though I look like her, you said I didn't act like her, right? Not at all. Your personalities are rather different. Leof always smiled valiantly. She thought that was part of a knight's duty alongside fighting errant knights and evil dragons. She just wanted to make everybody happy. You, however... Yeah, I get it. I'm gloomy, and I hardly ever smile, and I'm not that much fun. I make sarcastic remarks, and I use crass language, and I don't respect my elders. Welcome back. I'm no knight. In fact, I'm pretty rotten. I don't know if I would go quite that far. I would, but you said you liked me all the same. I'm still a stupid teenager, and I don't know what I want to do with my life. But you saw how awkward and indecisive I am, and you still decided to stay with me. I know I'm not Leof, but I am Marnie, and isn't that enough? I don't know. I hope so, but... Then let's keep going, hoping, okay? I take Elizabeth's hand in my own, linking our palms together. A warm summer breeze runs through the forest. The grass at my feet dances, as do the leaves in the trees. I can smell summer in the air. The grass is studded with flowers, all soft pastel colors, with downy petals and hanging heads. Bluebells and primroses grow beneath the shade of the tall trees, and greenish sunlight filters down through the trees of the leaves. Fan Chapel may be small, but it's really pretty. I can't believe I didn't notice it before. I used to see the worst in everything. I went through life with my head bowed, staring at the ground, so I didn't have to properly look at anybody or anything. I didn't like myself, and I didn't like the world. I was bitter and cynical. But being with Elizabeth has given me a brand new perspective. She makes me feel like a better version of me, and that has to mean something, doesn't it? I'm only a stupid teenager, and maybe some of my thoughts don't matter, but I think it does. It must. No matter what happened between you and Leof, I'm here now. And so are you. We're still together, and I want to stay together. Let's keep making each other happy, okay? Oh, Marnie, I would like that, but is that even possible? Why shouldn't it be? Loads of impossible things have happened to me over the last week. Compared to fighting off a huge dragon, this should be child's play. But I come from an entirely different world than you. You're from this century, and I'm from mine. No matter how much I wish to the contrary, I don't have any place in your life. Then I'll make a place for you, I promise. That's because after everything we've been through, I really do love you. Marnie. As I speak those words, I swear I can feel Graham's pendant, though I suppose it's really Elizabeth's pendant, impress itself against my skin. The pendant feels icy cold, just as it did when I discovered Elizabeth asleep in the forest, when I rescued her from her free fall through the night. If there is any magic left in this old trinket passed down for centuries upon centuries, then I want to believe, I would like to hope, that it can make my wish come true. I want Elizabeth to live a long, happy life that was denied her during her own time, and I want to stay with her, that's all. Then, and only then, would we be able to have our own happily ever after. The end. I think it was pretty good. My VTuber model is lagging something fierce. It's okay though. Yeah, credits. But, was it you or Kate that was talking about there was a second one? Post-credits? I don't know. Someone did say that there's a second game where it continues off and explores, the Marnie and, Elizabeth. You did? I'll look into it. If it costs money, I'll put it on my wish list, and maybe we can do it at some point. Thank you for reading. Yeah, my VTuber model is super delayed and laggy. Might have been that screen. It went white and then I could move again. $12 for the second game? The Fairy's Secret. Okay, I'll have to remember that. Soon, too soon in fact, my final day at Grand's arrived. Come tomorrow morning, my parents will be here to pick me up, full to the brim with tales of the sun, the sea, and of course, Valentine Ross. I can pretty much predict what will happen beat for beat, word for word. Mom will gush about seeing Valentine Ross, only he can turn her back into a giggly, starry-eyed schoolgirl, and Dad would tease her. Mom will snap at him in turn, but her cheeks will be red and she won't be able to stop smiling. Dad will hug me and ruffle my hair, and Mom will ask Grandma Iris if I behave myself, and then they will bundle me into the car. Dad will take my suitcase and hurl it into the boot, backed hobbled, pretending to carry the weight of the world, and then he'll slide into the driver's seat.
All clear, everyone. You okay back there, Gizmo? What about you, Louie? Alright then, let's prepare to take off. 3, 2, 1.
Then Dad will turn the keys to the ignition, shift the gears and stick into first, and we'll be off. We'll cruise through the tree-lined driveway, churning gravel beneath our tires. Gran will watch and wait from the doorstep, with wispy gray hair fluttering in the wind. Dad'll pause at the automatic wooden gate for a while, tapping his fingers against the steering wheel. The wooden gate at the end of my grandmother's driveway are old and rickety, and the mechanism that opens the gate has gone kaput. It always takes a good 15 seconds for them to open far enough to allow a car to squeeze through. Then we'll be off driving away into the, well, not sunset because it's still relatively early and the sun's still high in the sky, but whatever. It'll be like the closing scene in a movie, a cheerful, inspiring song playing possibly by Valentine Ross, while credits scroll across along the screen, superimposed against the sky. It might sound cheesy, sure, but it's what I've been waiting for since Mom and Dad dropped me off at Grand's. I would have put up with anything, even the crooning strains of Valentine Ross playing on the repeat from the car speakers, if only I could have gone back home. But now Elizabeth is here, and she might present a bit of a snag in my otherwise perfect happy ending. I think they, wrong word. Bit of an error right there. Mom and Dad don't know she's with me. They don't even know who she is. I was able to trick Gran into thinking she was one of my friends from school, but what will Mom and Dad think? I won't be able to use the same excuses with them. Typo spotted, yeah. I don't know what to do. For the most part, there hasn't been that many errors, I don't think. There's been some weird spellings. Marnie? Elizabeth seems to share in my concerns because she's peering anxiously into my face. What do you think your parents will think about me? They wouldn't let me go back home with you, right? That sounds unlikely. My mom is organized to a fault and she hates surprises of any variety. She would be upset if Elizabeth was a cat I'd rescued from a street corner, let alone a living, breathing human girl. Where would we put her? We do have a spare bedroom, but that's reserved for guests. Well, it's true we don't get all that many guests. We're not a B&B, and I'm sure Mom would tut and say, it's the principle of the thing. She says that quite a lot, though I'm not entirely sure what she means by it. Personally, I think it's just a roundabout way of saying no. I thought as much. This could be bad. Elizabeth hangs her head, eyes downcast, and bites her lower lip. I've had a lot of fun with you, Marnie. I like you a lot. I don't want to say goodbye just yet. Elizabeth. My heart twists inside my chest. It hurts. I never thought I'd feel so sorry to leave dreary old Fanchapel. But after meeting Elizabeth, I've come to learn that Fanchapel isn't as dreary as I thought. It has a complex, sprawling history, The lives of many people from centuries past are entwined into this sleepy village, the verdant forest full of bursting with mystic secrets. My gran was right. There are fairies in the woods and many more things besides. Over the last week, I met a wandering knight, a cursed maiden, and a sleeping enchantress who fancied herself as somebody else. Thus they cast electric enough for any fantasy story, though not perhaps on the same scope as Lord of the Rings. I enjoyed myself a lot, despite my earlier reservations. At times I was unnerved, and at other times I was terrified, but things worked out in the end more or less. Now I can hardly believe I ever thought Fanchapel was boring. I've never been more gratified to be wrong about something in my life, and unlike my mother, I can actually admit when I'm wrong. She means varied. I'm happy I met Lisbeth, so we've not known each other for all that long. She's become very important to me. How can I say goodbye to her after everything we've been through? We fought a dragon together, and as if that wasn't life-changing enough, we even kissed, not just once, but several times. I'm not ready for tomorrow. I still need time to prepare. Leaving Fanchapel now would feel like waking from a wonderful dream. I don't know if I'll ever get the magic of these last few days back. Well, you could tell the truth, for one. Maybe not to your parents, but at least Gran. I would at least see... You can't just leave and then be like, oh, I love you, you can't give up, but bye. You need to figure out something. I can try to tell my parents about you, maybe they'll listen. It's not like they can just leave you here. Really? Lisbeth looks at me, her brow furrowed. Do you mean to tell them I was born hundreds of years ago? Do you think they would believe that? Well, my vocals trail off. My mom is stubbornly atheist. She doesn't believe in God at all, even though there's about 2 billion Christians, give or take, scattered across the world. Her own sister, the awful Aunt Joyce, among them. If my mom refuses to believe in God in any capacity, could she really believe in magic or fairies or dragons? It's doubtful. No, it's not just doubtful, it's downright impossible. Who would swallow a tall story like this, other than conspiracy theorists? It's too much to take in. You're right, my parents wouldn't believe me, it would never work. I did assume as much. Lisbeth sighs. What am I going to do? My family is all dead and gone, but I am still here. I have nowhere to go. I have no place in this world. Perhaps I really should have disappeared. No, don't say that. I reach out and take Lisbeth's shoulder in my hands. You do have a place here, and it's with me. I'm the one who woke you up, so I should look after you. I can't leave you. Thank you, Marnie. Lisbeth smiles. Your grandmother was right. You are a very kind girl. You put your friends above all else, and your girlfriend even higher. I know you mean well, but I would not want to cause you any problems. Moreover, Lisbeth glances down at the bed, her fingers splayed across the duvet. You are still regarded as a child in this society. The house you live in belongs to your parents, not you. As such, you have no say in their decisions. You can try to influence them, but there is no guarantee it would work. We might as well have bested a dragon between us, but realistically speaking, we do not possess all that much power, not in the modern world. I wince. Lisbeth is right, yet again. She's only existed in the 21st century for a week, but she's gleaned a remarkably acute understanding of it after watching so many episodes of Silent Witness with my gran. If we're being realistic, we have to admit that we're scuppered. There's nothing I can feasibly do, regardless of how much I want to help her. I'm still a couple years off from being an adult. I rely on my parents to feed, clothe, and house me. I can't make any important, life-altering decisions without their consent. I'm not even old enough to drink, let alone adopt a brand new member into our family. Yeah, chat with Granny. It's yelling at you right in front of your face. You have to... She has a big old house. She's by herself, multiple rooms. She's a teacher. She's... believes in fairies. She's a perfect person. No matter how much I rack my brain, I can't think of a way to resolve this, not without magic. I'd like to believe things will work out, but my frantic thoughts are interrupted by the song sound of knuckles against my bedroom door coupled by Gran's reedy voice.
Excuse me, girls. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. May I come in?
Honestly, I'd like to keep talking our options through with Lisbeth, but I think over the last 10 minutes we've already deduced there are no real options available. This is nothing but an exercise in futility. We've been wandering around in circles. Speaking to Gran might cheer me up, and even if it doesn't, it should take my mind off things for a few moments. Lisbeth seems to share my thoughts because she replies before I can.
Of course you can. I don't mind one bit.
Lisbeth slips off the bed and pads across the room, her ponytails bouncing jovially. Reaching for the door handle, she depresses it, then pulls the door ajar.
Do come in. It's always a pleasure to see you. I could say the same about you, dear.
Gran smiles and steps inside my, though I suppose it's really Aunt Lita's room. Lisbeth closes the door behind her with a click while Gran shuffles to the chair in the corner. Lisbeth, seeing her struggle, helps her take a seat.
Are you alright? Oh, I would be fine. My back isn't what it used to be, but it's one of the ills of old age, I'm afraid. Thank you for being so considerate. It's awfully polite. I hear a lot of stories on the news about teenagers, you know, none of them being very flattering. It's always about antisocial behavior and graffiti and unimaginable classrooms. Sometimes you even hear about arson or stabbings. You and Marty aren't like that at all, though you're both sweethearts.
I do wonder about that. Lisbeth smiles vaguely. I was not always the best of people. I have done many things I'm not proud of, but I would like to think I have changed. I just hope it isn't too late.
I'm sure it'll be fine, dear. We all make mistakes from time to time, but you're still young. You have plenty of time left.
You believe so?
Of course, Leof, dear. Or should I call you Lisbeth?
You know about that?
Oh yes, I've heard you refer to her as such on a few occasions. Was it supposed to be a secret?
Well, I glance away abashed. I hadn't meant to let Lisbeth's real name slide, not around Gran.
Granny Smort. Yeah, she probably knows.
Since I introduced her as Leof, I thought it'd be best to stick to the script until the very end of my visit. Leof's sudden arrival at Gran was suspicious enough already without her name shifting after a scant handful of days later. I was trying to be discreet, but I guess I didn't try hard enough. Either that or Gran is a lot sharper than she appears. She might be an old woman now, but much diminished from her former glory, but she was a teacher once upon a time. After hearing, her hearing started to go, but her ears must be honed after years spent picking out whispers in the classroom. Oh well, now Gran knows. I might as well fess up. That's right, I called Lisbeth Leof at first, but that's not her real name. It turns out, or rather, it's actually Lisbeth's.
Really now, how intriguing. Those names do sound rather similar, but they are not so close one might mix them up. I'm surprised you didn't know that already, Marty. You and Lisbeth being such good friends.
Gran's voice is light, but I can sense something hard beneath that smile of hers. It's not exactly accusatory, but it makes me flush with guilt all the same. Gran hasn't figured out the truth, has she? How could she? It's not possible. Any normal person would scoff in disbelief at Lisbeth's peculiar origins. But my Gran isn't a normal person. Not if we're going by the dictionary definition of the word. You gotta go in 4 minutes? Well, boy. I'll, if you're curious, you could probably watch the video, or, I could probably fill you in on what happens in Discord or something. And you'll stick around as long as you can. I feel like we're right there at the cusp at the end, but... watch the VOD later, yeah. She's been talking about fairies long before flipping into Grandma's voice. She's been talking about fairies long before I clapped eyes on Lisbeth. Has she really figured out the truth? I just...
Monty, dear, it's alright.
Gran interrupts my inarticulate stammers in the gentlest manner imaginable, her smile unwavering.
You don't need to keep lying to me. I am cannier than you might think, and you can't pull the wool over my eyes. Lisbeth is not one of your school friends, and she does not come from Folstow. You found her in the forest, didn't you?
Ah, I gasp. It feels like the air has been forced out of my lungs. It's hard to breathe. This must be how the perps feel in Silent Witness after Thomas Chamberlain has figured out their MO. I've been cornered. What am I supposed to do now? Gran, you knew?
I did, yes. I had a suspicion things were not quite right the moment I laid eyes upon Lisbeth. Now this feeling has only grown during the week. First, there was a confusion over very simple aspects of modern life, not to mention the archaic manner of speech. And then there was a fascination of the stained glass window in the church. I could not help but wonder. In the beginning, I did not think I was being fanciful. That's what everybody says when I tell them about fairies, even my own son. They think I'm old and senile. Well, I am old. I cannot deny so much. Senile, though, I would have to refute that. I see more than people give me credit for. Though I think anybody would be able to tell Lisbeth is not a normal girl.
Lisbeth, to my surprise, doesn't look perturbed by the proclamation. Instead, she smiles shyly, scratching her cheek as she does so. So you knew from the start. I suppose that is not very surprising. I'm not a particularly good actress.
No, indeed you are not. You fumbled at a good many times, despite Marnie's best efforts.
I know. Marnie got annoyed at me about that, but I couldn't help it. Your shepherd's pie was really good, and the running water was amazing, and the TV. I'd never seen such a thing in my time. I could not even begin to imagine them. I know I might seem strange to you and Marnie, but this world is far, far stranger to me. It has been a lawful lot to get my head around, and I'm not sure there is still much left for me to learn. There is much more I wish to learn. I am glad I came here, and I'm glad I met you too, wise grandmother. I only hope you are not too upset I attempted to deceive you. I promise I do not wish to tell any lies. Marnie and I only did what we thought we should, not so as to not alarm you.
I thought it would be something like that, yes. That's why I went along with your little charade. It would be a shame to spoil all your efforts.
Gran laughs.
I think the cat is well and truly out of the bag now, though. There is no need for pretenses around me.
The cat? The what? Lisbeth glances around the room, her eyes large and anxious. When did you have a cat? Gran doesn't have a cat. It's a figure of speech. A what? Oh, forget it. We've had this conversation before. It didn't sink in then. It won't now. Really isn't the time to lecture Lisbeth about the finer points of linguistics. Still, if she's perplexed over an innocuous phrase like that, I wonder how she'll react to hear about Schrodinger. Anyway, I guess you're right, Gran. I'm sorry for lying. I should have known you'd figure it out. Probably was inevitable. Inevitable.
It's fine, dear. I'm not upset.
Not even a little bit?
Well, perhaps I do resent being left out of your adventures, but there is a reason behind Enid Blyton novels don't concern themselves overly with old women like myself. I don't know what you two girls have been getting up to, but I doubt I could have helped. I would hate to get in the way. I do wonder what will happen to Elizabeth now, though.
Would I be correct in presuming you don't have a home to return to? That is correct, yes. I did have family once, but they are gone now. I'm the only one left. If Marnie's parents refuse to accept me, I don't know where I'll go.
I see. Now that is a conundrum. I would often look after you myself, but I fear I'm too old. I raised 5 children, but that was years ago. And now I need Mora to take care of me. I don't know if there's much I can help you, dear. But if the fairies brought you here, perhaps they will help you find somewhere to stay, somewhere you belong. You still have a pendant of mine, don't you, Marnie?
Oh, yes. I dig the pendant out of my pocket. It feels so cool to the touch against my fingers, reassuringly solid. Thanks for the pendants, Gran. It was a big help. Bye, Kaylee. Thank you for being here.
just in case it adds. Okay, I'm gonna wait for ads to go off. Okay. I'm happy to hear it. Was it that pendant which led you to Lisbeth?
I think it might have been. It brought me to her, and I kept the pair of us safe.
That is what my mother said it would do, when she gave it to me on my 13th birthday. She said I should keep it close whenever I went to the woods for my own protection. Otherwise, I might find myself in danger.
Rand smiles as she recalls the story from her childhood, her gnarled hands resting peaceably on her lap.
I do not believe in magic myself back then. I thought it was a tissue of nonsense. I kept the pendant for many years, but I never wrote it, I quite forgot about it until Frank's passing. That's when I began to hear the fairies. They made me recall my mother's warnings, which made me remember the pendant. I found it in the back of the drawer, gathering dust. I wore it for a while myself under the collar of my dress, but when you came here, Monty, I just thought it would be better served with you. I don't know what prompted this decision, it just felt right. Now, I'm very glad I did. I don't know what powers this pendant possesses. There may be magic enough in that old worn rock to help you, Lisbeth. Why don't you make a wish upon it? I realize this might be a childish suggestion, but you never know. Your wish might come true. The next day.
The next day, the very next day. That Saturday, Lisbeth and I found ourselves sitting in the Grand's kitchen. Lisbeth is sipping on a cup of chamomile tea, and her expression is taut, and I don't think she's really tasting it. Grand made me a cup too. She prepared it with a couple of digestives, but I barely touched it. I don't think I have the stomach for any food or drink right now. My fingers beat out an uneasy, irregular rhythm against my thigh. I can't keep my eyes away from the clock on the wall. It's almost 3 in the afternoon. My parents should be coming to pick me up any minute now. My mom's earlier message is to be relieved. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and flip it open. My mom sent me a text a few hours ago telling me she'd forgotten off the plane. At long last, it was hell, Marnie. All those crying babies. And she was on her way to Fenchapel. She hasn't sent me any news since. Is she all right? Gran sees me fiddling with my phone. She smiles, settling her knitting to one side. I'm not sure what Gran's knitting exactly. It looks to be a strange, shapeless thing. Perhaps a hat, or maybe a tea cozy. The world of knitting patterns is a mysterious, arcane one, and I can't wrap my head around it.
Did your mom send you another message, dear?
No, not yet.
Well, I suspect she doesn't need to. You'll be seeing her soon enough.
Provided they didn't get caught in traffic.
Oh, I wouldn't worry about that, dear. These old country roads are never busy.
Maybe not, but the motorway will be packed. It always is on the weekends.
Well, let's just sit tight and wait.
Gran picks up her knitting again, slowly and methodically adding more stitches with her gnarled fingers.
I hope that you had a good time. They went to Bordeaux, wasn't it?
That's right.
No, that sounds nice. I'd love to wander around the seafront. I've heard the food there is delicious too, and the wine.
I don't know if they had much a chance to sightsee. Mom wouldn't stop banging on about Valentine Ross in the car.
Oh, I know your mom's feeling about Valentine. She's always talking about him. I think it's nice she has something she's so passionate about, though I don't understand the appeal myself. Valentine's almost as old as I am.
Rand smiles guiltily and shakes her head.
Don't tell her I said that, though.
Don't worry, your secret's safe with me. I can pretend I understand the appeal of a Valentine either. My phone, warmed by the bright summer sun, buzzes in my palm as though on cue. I glance down at the screen. It's a new message from Mom. We'll be there in 10 minutes, as at Castor Now Love You. It's nearly time. I wonder what will happen to Lisbeth. She made a wish upon the pendant last night at Graham's behest, but there's no guarantee the magic will work. What if it's worn off by now? I have no way of knowing either way. I simply need to wait. Marnie, are you alright? Lisbeth shuffles closer to me, the legs of the chair scraping against the floor. Her ponytail sways and a few loose strands of her hair brush against my cheek. The smells of Graham's likey shampoo and something about her presence makes me feel comforted. I'm alright. I try to smile at her, but I don't have much practice and my cheeks twinge. I was just thinking. About what? About us, I guess. It's all well and good to say we'll always be together, but in the real world there are obstacles that can prevent that from happening. What will Elizabeth do if my parents don't accept her? Where will she go? I don't want her to live out her days on the streets, unable to make a living, searching for scraps of food. That would be way too depressing. Let us try not to worry. I think we did enough of that last night. Personally, I would like to tell myself that this will all work out. How do you know that? I don't know, but I have to believe in it regardless. That's what magic is all about. I was a witch myself in my first life, so I know how it works. If you want to cast a spell, you really need to mean it. So, does that mean you really want to stay with me? I do. Lisbeth nodded seriously, her expression set. More than anything. Oh, Lisbeth. I opened my mouth, ready to reply, but I'm soon cut off by a honk from the driveway. Grandma gets to her feet slowly. She does everything slowly and smiles. That would be my Andrew, I presume. He must be back already. Let's go and say hello, shall we? And let's hope for the best while we're at it. Gran shuffles through the front door as though nothing is amiss. I trail along behind her, anxiety gnawing at the pit of my stomach like a monster. My stomach roils and I wince. I never thought I'd feel so anxious to be reunited with my parents again. What would they do when they see Lisbeth? What would they say? But as soon as it transpires...
Gizmo, I missed you, my darling. Come here.
Dad throws his arms around me in a warm, paternal embrace the moment I open the door. He runs his fingers through my hair, ruffling it just as I expected. He really is predictable. My mom hangs back, arms folded, as she looks me up and down. Her expression is critical, like a critic sizing up a painting in an art gallery. Is she afraid I might have dyed my hair in her absence? I wish. You look well, Marnie, though your cheeks are a bit pink. Did you remember to put sunscreen on every day? Almost every day, Mom. Mom purses her lips together. Almost every day isn't every day, Marnie. You know you need to be careful when you have such fair skin. I don't want you blistering like an overcooked tomato.
Come off it, Louie. We haven't seen our little girl in a week. Can't you be a bit nicer to her?
This is my way of being nice. I'm sorry for caring about our only daughter, Andrew. But... I'll drop it for now. I don't want to cause a scene, and I'm not in the mood for an altercation. Flying does not agree with me. Right now, I just want to go home and get some sleep.
Lost in dreams about old Valentine, hey?
What I dream about is none of your concern. My mother pokes at my dad in the side between his ribs, and he laughs and jerks away from her, just like an overgrown schoolboy.
Sorry, Lucy. I couldn't resist.
You never can you? You're just like a child.
He's always been like that, my Andrew. Personally, I think it's a good thing. Let's hope when he gets to be my age, he'll still be as spry as he is now.
Spry is one word for it, I suppose.
And how would you choose to define me, my wonderful wife?
Ask again later when we don't have a ringing headache.
Right you are, Louie. Anyway, do you want to pop in for a cup of tea? It might help with your aching head, if you don't mind, do you, Gran? Of course not. I'll put the kettle on.
Well, I was hoping to be home ASAP, but... Mom sighs and presses her fingers against her forehead, massaging her temples. It might be nice to sit down for a minute. Thank you, Iris. I appreciate your offer.
Oh, you don't need to thank me, Louis, dear. I'm always happy to help my daughter-in-law. I'm glad you and Andrew come to visit so often. It's more than Lita does, though I suppose she does live in York.
Grandma shuffles back into the house and Mom follows along beside her. Gran pauses in the doorway and glances at my dad, shielding her roomy blue eyes from the harsh sunlight.
Do you want a cup of tea too, Andrew? That'd be grand, Mom. Whisk me up a cup, would you? I'll be there soon, but I need to help Marnie with her suitcase first, and Lizzie too, of course.
Speaking of, the dad kind of looks like Edmund, since they technically are related. A descendant of Leof, kind of looks like the brother, Edmund. Oh, Lisbeth blinks at my dad shyly, half-lidded behind a door, and points to herself. You're talking about me?
Of course I am. You're part of the family too, whether you like it or not.
Now it's Elizabeth's turn to feel full brunt of my dad's overzealous affection. He ruffles her hair and squeaks in alarm, dropping her daze to the carpet.
I know I'm not your real dad, Lizzie, but I almost feel like it. I can't believe you've been living with us for a year already. Time really does fly.
God, Andrew. Mom, who's sliding off her wedged sandals in the entrance hall, shoots Dad a withering look from the shade. Don't talk to me about flying now. I'm not in the mood.
Sorry about that, Louie. I'm just happy to see my girls again.
The wish must have came true. Made the parents think that they've already been living together.
Lizzie might not be our daughter, but I told her dad I'd look out for her a while. He's been away in States. I promised I'd keep her safe until she went off to uni. And that's just what I'll do.
You forget I'm the one who cooks our meals and cleans the house.
And you do a great job, Louie.
Dad blows a kiss in Mom's direction and she rolls her eyes.
Now let me haul these cases off into the boot. Stand aside, you frail young womenfolk. As a man, it's my job to do the lifting.
Oh, just take right after Edward. Women can't do this. You can be so chauvinistic, Andrew. This isn't the Middle Ages.
And you love me for it.
Dad flexes his non-existent muscles and bends down to retrieve my suitcase.
Oof.
He staggers beneath the bulk of my suitcase as though it's a heavier burden than Atlas had to bear.
What have you got in here, Gizmo? Did you rob a bank?
There aren't any banks around here to rob, Dad.
You're not wrong there.
Dad staggers to the car and I open the boot and Dad dumps my suitcase into the back.
And now for Lizzie's things.
Lisbeth came to Fan Chapel with nothing more than clothes on her back, but in leaving it, she now has a suitcase full of clothes. The suitcase isn't Lisbeth's, and the clothes inside aren't hers. The suitcase is one of Frank's old ones, and the clothes all cast off that used to belong to Aunt Lita and Aunt Allison. Gran bequeathed all these old bits and pieces to Lisbeth, with a gentle smile and well wishes. Take these things, my dear. They'll be happier with you. In this old house, they are doing nothing but collect dust. I wonder if my dad will realize that the clothes inside in the case isn't Lisbeth's, when later she unpacks them. Maybe he'll wonder, brow furrowed, why Lisbeth has so many of his sister's old things. Or maybe these old things will transform as though by magic during the journey back to Grimsby. After everything that happened, I wouldn't be surprised. Magic has been the main theme of my brief history in Fan Chapel. Excuse me, I was wondering, can I really come back with you? Is that alright?
Well, you're more than welcome to stay with my mom if you want, but it might be a bit of a commute to the college from here. I think it'd be easier if you came back with us, where you really belong.
Where I belong? Lisbeth repeats the words under her breath with wide eyes. She stares at my dad, who's busy wrestling with her suitcase, and then back to the house. Mom's sitting at the table at the kitchen with one leg crossed over the other while Gran potters about in her slippers, busy brewing tea. They're my family, but I guess Lisbeth is now too. Marnie. Lisbeth reaches out, hands trembling, and links her fingers with my own. I don't believe it. I can really stay with you? We can stay together. It sure looks like it, huh? I'm not sure how it happened, but it's not like I want to question my newfound happy ending. I'm afraid if I start poking holes, this fantasy scene will collapse like an old fruit flan. I just want to enjoy the moment. It seems Lisbeth shares my sentiments because, Oh, Marnie, Marnie. Cute. She all but leaps at me and wraps her arms around my waist. I stagger back, almost collapsing, but I don't, not quite. I'm able to find my balance in time, but Lisbeth's head is still resting against my own, her arms looped around my body. It's a hot day, almost unpleasantly so, and Lisbeth's embrace is very warm. I'm gonna start sweating if she does not let go soon, and all this black doesn't exactly help. Maybe Mom has a point, maybe my fashion sense is impractical. But I don't care about that now, not when I'm with Lisbeth. We faced dozens of trials and tribulations over the last week. Lisbeth pushed herself to the breaking point so she could uncover the truth. So she isn't Leof. She never was Leof. She's not a noble knight, but an ancient witch who never knew what it was like to have a happy, fulfilling life. She left her father and his sister behind, and now they're both gone. She doesn't have family anymore, but... It's alright, Lisbeth, don't cry. But I'm so happy, I can't help myself. It's just like a dream. I know it's like a dream, but it isn't. I promise you that. You have a new family. You can start a new life. You're here now. You're with me. We can be together. Do you mean that, Marnie? Do you want to stay with me? That's right, I do. I take Lisbeth's trembling hands in my own, squeezing them, and look into her eyes. Always. The end. Stretchies. And it took us to the, thingy. What are extras? Gallery, music box, notes. Okay. So, that was the fairy song. It had a pretty sweet ending. Apparently there's a sequel that cost $12. I'll put it in my wish list. Maybe it'll go on sale. Hopefully. Oh, that was pretty fun.